Hello, everyone. You know exactly what time it is. Welcome back to the EA Sports Creator Series. And on this beautiful Saturday evening, it is a landmark day on the Creator Series calendar. On the night where we bade adieu to the F1 23 game over the next 3 hours, 5 races, 9 drivers. They will all lock horns as they battle for the remaining spots on the F1 grid for season number 7 on F1 24 in the second running of the playoffs. The inaugural edition saw the battle for promotion and relegation taken all the way to the wire, with 1 point ultimately the difference between promotion and relegation between Formula 1 and Formula 2. Mr. Dale will know all too well about that. We have some familiar faces from last season as well, whilst others will be contesting the cauldron of the playoffs for the very first time. New track list, slight format tweak as well, which will all be covered in due course as we bring the curtain down on the F1 23 game. Very, very exciting times. I think you will agree. In the virtual commentary box, well, we've got the virtual commentary box we'll start with. It is myself, Tom Wilkinson, and alongside me it is Jake Sperry. Now, Jake, the lineups were finalised last week. We saw the finale of F1 and F2. 4 drivers in the playoffs for the second time. 5 drivers making their debuts. What do you make of the lineup so far?
I think this is going to be a really interesting playoffs for a number of reasons. But I think the most important reason that you're going to find is you look down the list of drivers and you look at who's got what and who has been saving what and who has been gaining what. You look at the F1 drivers who are in that realm of, okay, we need to find a bit of form and we need to find it quick. There is always going to be that element when you get the F1 drivers through. You know one is guaranteed to go down. You do not want to be that driver. Nobody wants to be that driver. And so they are going to have to step up. But you look at those F2 drivers, the likes of Scott and Gwatz and Dark Viper and F1 Alex, they all in their own way have a bit of form with them going in. And when you have confidence and you can ride on that confidence, that often can translate into a scenario like this. It's such a difficult cauldron to get correct. And this is a format that says, right, how adaptable are you at 5 different tracks? And how adaptable are you jumping in one type of car, the F1 car, out into the F2 car and continue on forward, alternating each time? No driver is ever truly going to be settled. It is pure pace that will decide the 4 that goes through.
Adaptation going to be key, and we'll get into that in a few moments' time. We'll go through last season, remind you all what happened. We'll go through the form guide, we'll go through the track list. We've got a lot to cram in a very short space of time in the intro. But like I said earlier, it's not just myself and Jake that will be guiding you through this evening's events on multitasking duty this evening and this afternoon, producing but also sat in the aptly named Clipbook Corner. It is Gareth Allen, everybody. Yes, I think you may have been muted just there, though. We may need to have a quick look back through that, yeah. We'll go through the lineup, though. We saw it last week, the 5 coming down from F1. We've got Perya. We've got Chesnoid in the playoffs for the second time, trying to defend his F1 position. Hayden in the playoffs again, like he was last season, this time trying to defend his F1 spot. Last season, he was trying to get up from F2. Dave Gaming in for the first time. And then we have Curbs, who was probably the standout of playoffs last season. And on the right, you can see the F2 drivers, all in very good form. We should note that as well. F1 Alex wasn't quite able to take the challenge to his teammate, Mr. Dale, across the course of the season, but certainly is going to be one of the big favourites to challenge for that top 4 position. Gwatz, been in fantastic form. Probably the form driver in the entire field. Been brilliant in the last few rounds of F2. F1 Scott's been up and down as of late, but we know the ability that he's got, and Dark Viper came in as a reserve, but certainly made some waves as he joined the F2 grid. Going to be very exciting to see how those guys do. Jake, I want to ask you, Who do you think is going to get up and who's going to be dropping down?
Well, if my F2 predictions from Imola were anything to go by, just don't listen to me, because I am not going to get this correct. And I believe that predictions are just that. The fact of racing is that there are 4 seats and 4 drivers are going to find themselves up in those seats. I believe Pedro's got enough to get himself through, so I don't see that being a problem. I believe Curbs is going to find his way through as well. But I'm going to throw a shock. I believe 2 F2 drivers are going to make their way through. I believe that both Gwot and F1 Scott are going to find their way through by any means necessary.
Oh, it's an interesting one, that. 2 F2 drivers going up. We'll have to wait and see what the next 5 races bring us. And I think we should talk a little bit about last season, because playoffs last season, introduced for the first time, was very, very entertaining. And we had a very, very close run result right at the end of it. We can have a look at the standings from last season on screen now. Matty D13 going up, who was racing in McLaren last season. Curb staying up, Hayden getting up, and Ches getting up by 1 point. Now, that point is very, very crucial. And we're going to have to go into this in a little bit of detail, because last season, Dale, we saw him win the final race of the playoffs. He came second in the first race, coming second actually to Ches. He took a brilliant one-shot qualifying pole position. But across the next 2 races, round 2 and number 3, he scored 1 point. And now that's going to be critical. We've got 9 drivers this season as well, rather than 8, which we had last season. So somebody is going to be drawing a blank every race. And as we can see from the results, 1 point very much makes all the difference, doesn't it?
Well, 1 point is everything. You get 1 point for the fastest lap of the race. So you talk about 1 point here, 1 point there. 1 point is a massive, massive talking point. And when you've got a field that from races 2 over to races 5, you effectively invert the grid and say, those who are a little bit further behind, you've got an opportunity to push through. I think that's where you're going to sit down and say, right, you've got a duty to make your way through, find fastest laps, and every point you will have to scratch and claw for by the time you get to the end of 5 races here tonight. So when you sit down and look at what does 1 point mean, at the beginning, 1 point doesn't mean very much. But the game theory that goes through, and the less points that become available, the more that you need to get a result, the more points have value.
Yeah, sorry to bring it up, Dale, but it is very important. We've got to talk about it because, you had a brilliant F2 season, so we've got to maybe bring you down a peg or 2. We'll go quickly before we get into one-shot qualifying through the track list. It is going to be Suzuka that we are starting in F1 cars. Then we go straight into F2 at Portimão. Then we go to Qatar, followed by Miami, and ending, like we are in real life, at Imola. But we're getting ready to go. You can see there, one-shot qualifying. Who do we want to ride on board with, Jake?
I think you got to start with someone up at the top end. So we'll take a look then, let's say here with Curb. I think Curb's going to be the best one to get an understanding of what makes a great lap here. Now, through the Assura S-curves, these are the fast lefts and rights in these muggy conditions. Over the top of the hill, the Gyaku bank here, the reverse bank corner is going to be so crucial in terms of setting up the overtake around the Nipo corner and getting that drive, needing to get through. Up at 7th gear, click down 1 for Degner 1, little bit of a wiggle there through the middle, slightly missed apex down through Degner 2, and then the charge up. There's 110 degrees of right over to the Nissan brake hairpin, and if you go too far, you're missing the brakes hairpin. Then you got to get that drive back through, and this is where you get the tiniest bit of relaxation. Through 200 right, and Spoon becomes the ultimate opportunity to get it wrong. It's double apex through, and then you've got to realize that it's so easy to understeer out wide, and Curb is doing as much as possible. Peugeot is apparently having some wheel issues out there. That's going to be a really quick fix needed. Otherwise, that's everything saying sayonara. 130R used to be one of the most fearsome corners in the world. Through the Hitachi Atsumo chicane, the right, the left, and then that final right-hand corner where it's so easy to spin up the rear tyres. It will look bad, but that's a good find at the end for 3rd place.
It was third place only, but incredibly close right at the sharp end. We'll get the final results on screen in just a moment, but Curbs will be very pleased to start off strongly in third. And that Williams, look at how close it is between the top six. This is what we wanted to see. Close racing. F1 Alex coming home in first place, taking pole position. A lot of people in the high 1 minute 27s, 14 milliseconds ahead of a brilliant Chesnoid Gaming gets into second place, carrying on the form he started last season in the playoffs by taking pole in China at round number 1. Curbs, like we said, in third, ahead of Dark Viper, been in brilliant form in Formula 2. He will start from fourth. Then comes F1 Scott, just over a tenth back, with Dave Gaming just under 2/10 back. Watts will be a little bit disappointed by that start, coming into this as the form horse, but only seventh and over half a second down Perrier with those wheel issues last of the drivers that set a time. Hayden not able to get a representative time because he disconnected pretty much as soon as we started.
Sometimes it happens and drivers aren't necessarily in the right position for the opening round. And if someone's got to take a zero, then that's not the place to do it early doors, but it does give you that time to go and recover back. So if you were to take a zero, I'd rather take a zero in round 1 than a zero in round 5.
Absolutely, yeah. You want to be right on it at the sharp end. Should we talk about some of the recent results for the drivers, though, in their last outing in Japan? Obviously, we saw it at the start of season number 6. It's going to be interesting to see. F1 Alex picked up a 7th place in the sprint and then 2nd place in the F2. Had a nice last lap battle with his teammate, Mr. Dale, who obviously went on to win the championship. It was also a pretty decent race for Curbs as well in F1. Picked up a 10th place in the sprint, 11th in the feature race, or the main race, of course, in F1. So a track that he seems to like. Dave Gaming also came home in 8th place in the main race there. Drivers that struggled, F1 Scott had a good qualifying session, but had a nightmare F2 race here in Japan. P12 in the sprint, got involved in a huge crash going through 130R and didn't even finish the feature race. So Scott looking to right some wrongs maybe from earlier on in the season.
Yeah, and this gives the perfect opportunity for drivers to make that recovery if it hasn't worked, or if it has, it's an opportunity to build, because this is going to be really difficult to finish in 8th place because only one driver can, and it's very much difficult to go through. So they're guaranteed almost to get that ability to do better than they have done. But when you see how close qualifying was, where you had the top 4 within half a tenth second, it just goes to show everyone is going to be sat, ready, waiting, and willing to go out and put their best foot forward. We're in for a close run, and look at that for strategy. 3 on soft, Chesnoid, Dave Gaming, and Persia. Everyone else starts on the medium.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, all the F2 drivers starting on the mediums. This F1 driver's taking the punt on the soft compound tyres. Format-wise, for everybody that will be wondering, 25% for the F1 races. That'll be round number 1, number 3, and number 5. And then in F2 in rounds 2 and 4, we're increasing from 25% to 35%. We'll talk a little bit more about that when we get there, because F2 proved to be the difference, really, between going up and going down. The F1 drivers really struggled to adapt last season. So we'll come on to that in due course, but obviously we have to talk about this beautiful Suzuka circuit, don't we, Jake?
We do. This is a track which was surprisingly built in the mid-1980s. It's one of the few figure-8 circuits in the world, and a track in only its 4th running in Formula 1 created the most legendary moments of Formula racing in history between Alain Prost and Ayrton Senna, which have been talked about and will be talked about time in memorial. This is a track which has an old school style of feel, and of course there were talks about F1 going over to Osaka potentially in the next 5 years or so. I think it would be a great shame to lose this track. This is one of the true motoring cathedrals that you can find in the world, and this is probably the premier racing circuit in all of Asia.
I would have to agree, and we saw some very good races in F1 and F2. F1 Scott saying the tyre temps looking good. That'll be good for him off the start. Obviously on the medium tyre, so we'll have to be careful of a fast starting Dave Gaming in the AlphaTauri and potentially Perrier as well if they can get off the grid nicely. Do need to speak about Perrier though. Didn't actually say it in the rundown we had a few moments ago, but picked up 3rd place in the sprint race in Japan. Very much contrasting fortunes in the main race. So DNF had a crash early on, so picking up no points there. So contrasting fortunes, but it will be F1 Alex who is did very well in F2, like we said, continuing that form, won the feature race in the finale in Imola, and will be hoping to get off to a flying start. Didn't manage to go up last season, had some issues and wasn't able to contest the last couple of rounds, but starting as he means to go on, with Chesnoid Gaming in that hat on the left-hand side of the circuit, and he'll be looking to get the jump on that Mercedes on this run down into turn number 1.
Well, this run's going to be important. It's downhill and everyone's going to be set up. And there will, of course, be those 5 red lights that everybody looks to set and get themselves ready for. We are getting things going. Your playoffs start now. What an aggressive line set up by F1 Alex over the formation lap. Hard over to the right-hand side, trying to defend it here from Chesnoid Gaming. There's looks in and around with Curbs and Dark Viper down the inside in the Red Bull. But ultimately, everybody scrambles through, and now through the Ashura S-curve. This is going to be about where you want to go. Nowhere to go. Track almost blocked with this 2-wide running. Curb does not want to yield.
Brilliant start from F1 Alex. He had the really strange grid position trying to cover off Chesnoid Gaming, but it worked absolutely perfectly as we've got a yellow flag further back. I think that's Hayden facing the wrong way, coming out of turns 1, 2, and 3. Scott just holding station as Dave Gaming runs out onto the curb. Already lost a place to Perry, and now going to get kicked down. Another one by the Ferrari of G-Watts as he gets all squirmy on the exit of Degner 2. But still the Mercedes of F1 Alex ahead, with Ches right on the back of that silver arrow.
Yeah, and now it's about chase and find yourself a little bit of room. And of course, because we're on 25%, that tyre wear is heavily exacerbated compared to what you do in 100%. It's 4 times the amount of wear that they have to deal with. And as such, they're going to have to be very, very switched on. There is F1 Alex leading this field outright at the moment. But this is the rise up over the circuit, heading towards 130R. Very difficult to make the pass without the drag reduction system, but Chesnoid Gaming might have a go here. It's the Itachi at Samo chicane, and very much a case of not finding it yet, but there is going to be time to find that, and building a gap is going to be crucial. And there's troubles out there between not Gwatz, or Gwatz, so to speak, and Dave Gaming. They've come together at the chicane, and that's dramas for both of them. They fall back 7th and 8th.
Yeah, and F1 Scott losing a place as well. Perrier up into 5th place, trying to recover from that compromised qualifying that he had. F1 Alex still holding station out in front. Hayden with a big game bug at the back. Apparently in spectator cam, that's one I haven't seen before, but still able to have control of the car. 30 seconds off the back of the pack and now retiring. So that is our donut being handed out. Are we going to see a safety car from that Alfa Romeo stopped at the side of the circuit? I think he may have just pulled off into the pits, thankfully for everybody else. But whoa, that is Chet's going very wide over the curbs through Degner 1, and a massive squirm on the exit of Degner 2 as well. Fell through goes Curbs. Dark Viper's going to file past as well, and Ches losing 2 places there with that little mistake going through the kinks just at the end of the first sector. And now Perry's going to be all over the back of the Haas. You would imagine those soft tyres going to be really starting to heat up as he loses the back end, and that could see him tumbling through the field a little bit. There is that 3.5 second buffer though between 6th place F1 Scott and Watts down in 7th.
The issue of the 2 Degner corners there, and what really
Jake, I think we may have lost you there. Just cut out. We weren't able to catch what you were saying. Curbs under pressure, potentially into the final chicane. Oh, there we go. We have just caught you back.
Yeah,
we missed the majority of what you were saying. 95% we weren't able to get. Do you want to take us through a potential overtake here, though?
Yeah, there is going to be a chance then, and it looks like you're going to see everybody lining up. DRS then is going to be active, and there's the look to the inside. Dark Viper couldn't quite find the commitment there with Curb, and it could have been a case of going through. Now, what I was trying to say is when they come up to the Degners, this is a really flowing circuit, Tom. And you look at the Degners are 2 very much samurai sword cut chopped out of this circuit. They are so jutting and striking in their difference that it's so easy just to get it wrong.
Yeah, and it's not going to be just the track limits that are going to kill you. If you smash over those serrated curves on the left-hand side, you're going to be dragged into the gravel. This is a replay of what went on with Gwatz and Dave Gaming. A little bit of a tap of the rear from the AlphaTauri. Tried to keep his nose in there, but just spinning the Ferrari round, and they lose a couple of seconds there. F1 Alex, who was looking pretty comfortable at the start of this lap. I think the gap was over 0.8 per second. Been reeled in a little bit by the chasing pack behind. The 6 cars still almost forming a peloton at the front of the field, sticking just within DRS range of each other. We saw it a lot last season in the playoffs, especially round number 1 in China. Everyone was able to stick very close together. Is this curve potentially thinking about a move into 130R? Might be trying to stay behind just for the run down into turn number 1, and does keep that Williams just underneath the gearbox of the Mercedes as we go through 130R and up into the chicane. He is actually going to have a little look up the inside, as he knows, thinks better of it, and will probably use the DRS and a little bit of battery, of course, to fly past on the run down into the first corner.
Yeah, and this is where you get that double run that goes through, and this is where the crucial run begins to find itself. And there's one pass and there's another. Persia is going to move himself up into fourth position, perfectly placing himself into play, but it's Curb who now finds himself in the 12-point position right now, and he realizes that he's going to have to try and break away, but it's going to be tough today because everyone is so closely matched. It's going to be a case, you would feel right now, Tom, of not if you can make a pass, but when, I think, is going to be the more important.
Yeah, we're seeing overtaking is pretty easy, especially on that run down into turn one. F1 Alex is probably just going to be thinking, stick to the back of the Williams, and I'll be back through in a matter of moments. We also saw Perja getting up into fourth place, kicking Chess down another spot. It's going to be F1 Scott in the Papaya McLaren to have another go at the Haas. Dark Viper also went a little bit wide, I think, going through turn one. He was pretty close to the back of Curbs and F1 Alex, but dropped back a little bit. You can see under a little bit of pressure from Perja, who is really flying at the moment. We highlighted the Aston Martin driver at the start of the stream as one of the favourites to hold on to that F1 spot, certainly proving his credentials, flying through the field after that slightly challenging qualifying session. But the top six still very much together. Dave Gamer did set the fastest lap on the previous turn as well, as he tries to close what was a 3.5 second gap, now 2.7 to the back of this pack.
Well, with soft tyres on, he'll have a better opportunity to do so, but those tyres will find themselves through. Now, they're going to be at 25% cliff next lap. That's what you're hearing there from Chesnoy Gaming in 5th position. So that's going to be where you're looking around and going, well, we're pretty close to the cliff. And at that cliff, you're going to want to make a pit stop. F1 Alex screaming around the outside in the Mercedes to jump back up into the race lead. That is as simple as, where do you want to be? Now, those medium runners are able to go a little bit longer, but these drivers in this train at the front, they're going to want one thing and one thing only here, Tom, and that's track position for the pit.
Absolutely, the undercut potentially could be very, very powerful. Those soft tyres are going to be screaming courtesy of the temperatures they're going to be experiencing, in particular through this beautiful first sector here at Suzuka. Curbs was pretty happy to wave the white flag there on the run down into turn one, could see the place and just slot in right behind F1 Alex as they trade places for the second time in as many laps. This is very close between Ches and F1 Scott. A little bit of a defensive shape thrown by the Haas up towards the hairpin. Is it going to compromise his exit? Certainly, as you can see, the Delta almost dropped out of DRS range, struggling with these soft compound tyres. He said that he was nearing the 25% mark on his tyre wear. I wouldn't be surprised to see Ches into the pits at the end of this lap.
Oh, and that's a missed apex there going in through Spoon. He's got to be careful about that. But look at the understeer. The dirty air effect hurting F1 Scott in a matter of ways. And that was pretty much going to temper the run here, heading over towards 130R. Now, here's a look at F1 Scott on the radio. He's going to use it.
We have got cars in the pits. We have lost you again there, Jake. It is Perja and Ches and Dave Gaming, the three soft runners into the pits. Squat's coming in behind them as well. So the back half of the field into the box. Curbs and Dark Viper squabbling through the first couple of corners. Is it going to be the Red Bull that comes out on top? Bit of a jink thrown there by the Williams, and that's going to put Dark Viper off as Curbs holds on to second place. Dropped a little bit further back from F1 Alex. Unfortunately, could fall out of DRS range, which could prove to be crucial, potentially allowing F1 Alex to just cruise away out in front. F1 Scott trying to pull up to the back of this duo as well after he was compromised by those drivers coming into the pits at the end of the lap. It is still Perja ahead of Ches, putting on those yellow striped medium compound tyres. Curbs just managing to stick within 1 second of F1X, but it's very close. He could drop out of it here. Are we going to see a potential look into the hairpin? No, the Red Bull not quite close enough to make a dart up the inside to try and assume second place. Scott has cruised up to the back of them as well, and then it is 21 seconds back to Perja. This could be the opportunity for the Aston Martin driver to try and get this undercut working and gain some more places, because he was flying through the field before he came in for that stop.
Yeah, he was, but now these drivers on fresh mediums, they're going to now get the opportunity to attack, and Perja here is looking for every lap that he possibly can, try and gain that advantage. That's going to be crucial. F1 Alex just tipping over. 1 second's advantage over Curb. Now that's going to be big because Dark Viper's searching for a way to get through, and that might just indicate right now that F1 Alex is finding what he wants. He'll dive in, so too will Curb. And Dark Viper the only one to stay out there, so F1 Scott in. So Dark Viper going the longest. He's looking for that overcut here. Try and make sure he's got the freshest tyres of the lot. Don't mind being P3, says Dark Viper. We'll get a better start in F2, and that's where he's wanting to play that advantage in the category where he's been driving all season.
Yeah, very interesting tactics already being deployed by Dark Viper, prioritising the F2. How strong is the undercut? We're going to see the Aston Martin flying down the straight. Perry is ahead of Curbs. Curbs are going to be under pressure for Ches swinging around the outside. I think the Haas did get through. Yes, just cut away from it right at the death there, but it is Ches up into 4th place. F1X just about holding on to the net race lead. 2nd place on the road with Perrier, almost pushing the Mercedes through this first sector here. F1 Scott a little bit disconnected further back, had a really poor pit stop phase, it seems. 2 seconds down with Dave Gaming and Quats filling the final 2 spots. Curbs all over the back of Ches. Got to use these soft compound tyres now to try and gain the track position. Now's not quite going to be the overtake position into the Degners. We saw it in F2. It was a brilliant overtake. I can't quite remember who it was, unfortunately enough, but it was beautiful. Are we going to see a lunge into the hairpin? Now's as good a time as any, but no, opting to sit behind for the time being. F1X has got to try and use these soft tyres as well. Drop the group behind, in particular Persia, who is the quickest driver out there at the moment. They're gaining on Dark Viper, as you would imagine as well. The Red Bull you would expect is going to come out between Curbs and F1 Scott, I would say.
You'd say that there's an opportunity here, and you really need those tyres to be in the back pocket, and Dark Viper will make the call from the race lead. Dive in. He's lost about 7/10 of a second on this lap to F1 Alex. He'll get the benefit of the earliest pit box thanks to being in the Red Bull. But F1 Alex here is bringing the entire train with. Perya is doing a fantastic job right now of keeping with F1 Alex despite being on an inferior tyre. Curb right there, can't find a way through, nor can Chesnoy Gaming. And this is where you're going to start asking, where is Dark Viper? Dave Gaming with the fastest lap. He'll be on the back of this group, and he's got to get up to speed quickly. He does have a slight advantage compared to everyone else by tyre life.
Yeah, Dark Viper slotting perfectly in between that gap that we highlighted. Dave Gaming is flying at the moment in clean air, trying to catch up to the back of this group. What you think is going to probably stay in last place. Notable move on the previous lap. Curbs on the run into 130R, got up into up into 3rd place. He's not satisfied with that though, as he chases the Aston Martin for 2nd place into the 2 Degners. We go deja vu from the previous lap because we were riding on board with the Williams. I don't think we'll make a lunge into the hairpin because, of course, Perry will probably be wise to it, but we'll sit behind for now, and we'll certainly think that his opportunities are going to grow as this race goes on, because the medium tyres are not just slower at this stage, they're also older as well.
They are, and that's going to be for Perya what he's going to have to try and navigate against. Of course, the DRS from F1 Alex is always going to be the ultimate combatant to Curb and what Curb wants, but Curb's going to want some drive. Look at how close you get through Spoo. Not often that you can say, I can get that close, but the best defense is an attack, and if Perya can use that battery deployment there of the energy recovery system, might be able to attack F1 Alex here into the Hitachi Atsumo chicane. Not going to be able to do it right now, but this is the catch-22 of Perya. Has to find a way to keep the battery deployment in check, realizing that Curb is going to do everything to try and get through.
Could be under pressure potentially now because he dumped that ERS on the run up to 130R. Ches loses another place. Dark Viper on those brand new soft compound tyres eases past up into 4th place. That is the money spot. 4th place, top 4 obviously going up at the end of the playoffs. Obviously round number 1 isn't going to determine what goes on, but those top 4 are getting off to the perfect start. F1X did manage to hold on to the lead. Curbs, you feel like he's in a really good spot here. Perry would have dumped a lot of his battery. We saw him gaining massive amounts on F1X on the run through 130R. Feels like it's only going to be a matter of time now before that Williams gets back up into 2nd place.
Well, every lap, every corner that Curb spends behind Perya, he is going to be struggling, and that wiggle will indicate a lot because he is going to have so much trouble trying to keep those tyres in a window where they are not wearing. It is a lot more wear when you are behind someone than in front, and Perya right now is doing just about enough to keep F1 Alex in check. And there will be that crossover as well, Tom, where the medium tyres won't have as much wear as the soft tyres. And as such, you're going to sit down and say you can attack those mediums for longer. F1 Alex can't on the softs, and so he might be able to pull back in. Look at the group, 1/10 of a second, shadowing through 130R, but getting as close as you can. Might have to be forced into making a move, but can't find it. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Throw a blanket on them. Curb around the outside of the final corner searching.
Brilliant run. You can see the light flashing at the back of the Aston Martin. We saw on Curbs' steering wheel. He's got a lot of battery left to deploy. Perry could be defenseless. ERS light flashing at the back of the Mercedes as well. Through goes the Williams up into 2nd place. Beautiful stuff as Perry really the master of his own downfall there after using all of his ERS to try and stay as close to F1 Alex as possible. Sees him drop down into third place, and Dark Viper, also on the soft compound tyres, is going to be chomping at the bit to get past this Aston Martin. The top four have broken away a little bit as Scott managed to get past Chesnoy Gaming, just hovering at around 1 second. Dave Gaming's progress has seemed to stall, and Gwat's at the back still 4.5 seconds off the back of the pack. So it looks like it's going to be this four that continue to battle for first, second and third in this race.
Well, you've got to remember, Dark Viper's got the biggest advantage of the lot. He's got the freshest tyres, so he'll use those to an advantage and will try and find a way to navigate past Peya, past Curb, past F1 Alex, who leads this one outright. And F1 Alex at the front believes that it will be Curbs who will be taking this race away. He doesn't have the confidence to say, I can fend this one all off by the time he gets to the end of this one. And this will be why, because the DRS zone up the hill here is going to be where Curbs gains that advantage, but I think he's staying back a little bit here at this moment, realizing how strong the run is to the first and second corners. Little search by Peya is going to keep Curbs honest, but at this moment, 3 laps to go, Curbs is going to try and pick and choose.
Yeah, but he's got to be careful of the Aston Martin behind Per. He's shown that he likes a fight, but could be having to defend here. Does move over to the middle of the track. We're going to see potentially 2 overtakes using the battery that's saved up by Curbs. Up into the lead we goes around the outside, and the Red Bull goes Dark Viper. Per sends it back up the inside to try and hold on to third place. Successfully done, but the Red Bull's going to try and continue alongside. It's going to be very, very close. Rubbing tyres, but run out of road. Door firmly slammed shut by the Aston Martin's. Dark Viper has to stay in 4th place for the time being. And look at the gap out in front. Curbs has decided now's the time to bolt. Nearly 0.8 of a second to F1 Alex.
That's a massive, massive moment in the context of this first race of the playoffs. Curbs now looking to try and break away, and already at 2/3 of a second, if he can get to 1, F1 Alex is going to be floating on a lonely island at this moment in time, when you consider that Peya on the mediums doing everything, and F1 Scott now in the McLaren joins the scene as well, and all of a sudden F1 Alex is sensing sharks and they are circling.
He is still having to be in defensive mode, though, for the 3rd time in as many laps. He's almost being pushed through Spoon Curve. This time it's a Red Bull sat right behind him, but he's got to try and deploy the same tactics you would imagine to try and keep the cars behind him still. You can see the ERS light flashing at the back of the Mercedes and the Aston Martin. Dark Viper, not with a lot of battery left as well. Over to the right-hand side, we're going to go with Peya. This is his opportunity. He's going to send it up the inside into the chicane. Formerly known as the Casio Triangle. Just enough space left on the outside for the Mercedes, but around the outside we go, and there's contact further back. Dark Viper and F1 Alex tripping over each other, allows F1 Scott, allows Chesnoy Gaming to file through up into 3rd and 4th respectively, and Scott, not satisfied with just taking 3rd place, he's going to challenge the Aston Martin as he's down into turn 1. No, doesn't quite have the top end speed to get ahead of Peya there.
Yeah, but 2 laps to make it happen. That's going to be big. The seas have parted. It's just opened up. F1 Alex and Dark Viper from potentially saying, oh, it's just going to be these 4. Now they're going to be looking on the outside, looking in after the opening round here at the playoffs. That's going to be huge. And F1 Scott will realise that Peya here is on an inferior strategy to him right now, and that's going to be big. Chesnoy Gaming will be smiling from ear to ear. He'll luck himself into that 4th place position.
Whoa.
He might have to be careful because he's nearly thrown it in the barriers out of Degner 2.
Can't get too excited because you'll be a little bit heavy-footed on the loud pedal as Ches experiences there through Degner 2 Curbs. All of his Christmases have come at once in the middle of, I forgot what month it is, middle of May Day, as he's now 2.5 seconds clear. Crucially, F1 Alex dropped a load of time, as did Dark Viper, because they continued their scrap through turns 1, 2 and 3. They managed to close up to the back of Ches still, courtesy of that big snap at the exit of Degner 2. F1 Scott is still not satisfied with 3rd place, sorry. He wants this 2nd place from Peya. He was sat at the back of the train for so long in this race, biding his time. ERS starts flashing at the back of the Aston Martin. Is he going to try and move into the Casio Triangle? I don't think he's quite going to be close enough. Later on the brakes, almost goes into the back of the green Aston Martin there. But yeah, sitting behind for now. I think this could be a routine move as Curve down in front starts the final lap of the race. He's going to fly past with the use of DRS and a bit of battery. This is like taking candy from a baby. Through goes the Papaya McLaren, and the British Racing Green of Aston Martin is relegated down into 3rd.
Yeah, but that Aston Martin is so good through the corners, and there goes Dark Viper with every bit of anger there, up into 5th position, getting the pass done on F1 Alex then, through the 2nd corner, and now up over the hill through the Gackerbank, on board with Peya, trying to give the last quantum bit of chase that he's got available to him. This is tough. this is really tough for Pay, and he can find a way back into second position, then that is a stellar drive, considering he's on the mediums for the final stint. So difficult to get it done, and he'll be praying that the Hitachi Atsumo chicane is going to be the one that's going to get that done. We can get Pay with the DRS. Well, he's already proven he can, but now can Pay get you back, Scott?
Going to be very interesting to see this final sector, how it pans out. We know who's going to win this, though, barring any major whoopsies. 2.1 seconds the gap between first and second place. Curbs managed this race absolutely beautifully, and even though it fell into his lap a couple of laps ago with the collision between Dark Viper and F1Alex, two F2 rivals tripping over each other through the final chicane, he's driven beautifully. Purrier closing up to the back of F1 Scott, though. We've got to be careful of this battle into the Casio triangle once again. Scott goes defensive, puts the old squeeze on the Aston Martin, but leaves in the room. Sweeping around the outside goes Purrier, but I don't think he's going to get the traction on the exit. No, he doesn't. It's going to be a drag race up to the line as Curbs crosses it first. I think it's Purrier that just about takes second place ahead of F1 Scott by 0.08 of a second, with Ches 0.3 of a second back. Dark Viper beating out F1Alex and Dave Game, and then Guat's a little bit detached at the back of the pack. That was a brilliant way to start this playoffs championship off. I can't get my words out, too excited. But it is the Williams of Curbs. Managed it beautifully, took home the result, and that is the perfect start to proceedings for Mr. Curbs there.
You can't do any better than P1, and that really did personify that. A massive smile will be over his face because he knows that the first challenge is out of the way. You've got yourself a victory, and a victory is super important because it says I'm the driver to beat, and now I've got a little bit of a buffer to those who are behind. So I think that was a really important race for Curbs, but crucially, Paya, what a move round the outside of the final corner to hold on to second. That is legendary.
Could prove very important when we come to the business end of the season. Curbs, he's a Manchester United fan. Hasn't all been going his way in real life for his club, but here in Suzuka, this was certainly the theatre of his dreams as he comes home 1.3 seconds clear. Then Paya and F1 Scott rounding out our podium places. Ches probably didn't have the outright pace, but stayed out of trouble for the most part, finishing in fourth place ahead of Dark Viper and F1X, who will be seething at each other after that contact they made in the Casio triangle. Dave Gaming picked up the fastest lap. Going to be crucial, does get an extra point for that. Guatz really didn't have the pace at the back of the pack. Once he had that contact with Dave on the opening lap, or lap number 2, I think it was, wasn't ever able to recover, and Hayden only lasted about one lap after that little bug he had. Hopefully he's going to jump back in for the F2 because, really want to see what Hayden's about. But perfect start for Williams, Aston Martin and McLaren. 3 Mercedes customer teams on the podium with Mercedes works car down in position number 6. Interesting stuff there.
Absolutely. And we get that sense that everybody has got their feet in under the door now. They understand that either they're at the top and they're fending off, or they're underneath, they're underdogs, and they're going to have to battle back up. I think that there are going to be a couple drivers, Dark Viper and F1Alex Best, who will look at each other and go, they've cost each other the equivalent of 5 or 6 champion points each, and they are going to want them back, and there's no way they're going to get them back unless they've got the pace to do so. And the good news is, they're going to battle again, and it's the car they actually prefer, which is going to be interesting over towards round 2 when we move into F2 category machines.
Yeah, but that's going to be crucial, isn't it? Because they had a real opportunity in the category they're not as familiar with, and they threw it away, which is so unfortunate. But 4 races still to go, of course, and we'll see how they do. If we want to get the standings up very quickly, just so we can show you what the point scoring system will be for everybody else. The winner taking home 12 points. That, of course, was Curbs, going down into 9th place with F1 Scott. That is not quite in the right order, unfortunately enough, but we'll try and make heavy weather of it. It is Purrier in 2nd place with 10. Then it is F1 Scott on 8, followed by Ches with 6. That is your top 4. Remember, 29 points was the magic number last season. I think that might drop down a little bit further. Then it is 4, 3, 2, and 1, 0 for the driver that finished in 9th place. It's a shame that's not working, but we'll get it sorted for later on. I think, though, in Clipbook Corner, I think Dave Gaming, that's definitely not who's in Clipbook Corner. Gareth Allen might have a little bit of stuff to talk to us about.
Yeah, and I did actually just fix the standings for you. So if you want to just go through that, and then I'll come to me after.
Standings back on screen for everybody there. 12, 10, 8, and 6 outside of the top 4. Dark Viper with 4 ahead of Dave Gaming and F1Alex, both on 3 points, courtesy of the fastest lap for the AlphaTauri. Guatz with just 1 point. Disappointing start, considering like we said at the start of the stream, he's probably the form driver coming into the playoffs, so that'll be a disappointing start for the Ferrari. Hayden, of course, he said that he wants to be back in F2. This is probably not the way he would like to do it, though, when it has been taken very much out of his hands.
Yeah, no. First round, if you get into technical issues out there, got a whole race to try and recover that back through and try and regain, but fighting a losing battle from the back foot. Good news is, if he gets it sorted, going to be on the front, so any pace that we haven't seen from him, he's then got the ability to go out there, use from the front second race. So I think that's going to be his positive he'll take. He'll have good grid position between now and the end of this playoff series for the EA creators.
Now that everyone has seen the opening salvo, the opening jousting between our drivers, thank you everybody for joining us, of course, in the chat. Get your predictions in. We've seen round number 1. Who do we think is going to be in those top 4 places? You can see on the screen at the moment who currently holds them. I can tell you very much for certain that is going to change over the course of the next couple of hours. Get your predictions in. We'll run through them, of course, when we are on the formation lap for the F2 outing. Just before we get into that as well, no more one-shot qualifying. It'll be reverse championship order. So Hayden, if he does make it, will be starting from pole position. But Gareth, I think you are ready to do a little bit of analysis for us.
Yeah, well, there's a few moments to go through there. One of them is, of course, something we caught in the broadcast, but it was Chesnoid having a big wobble out of Degner 2, and of course he scored that 4th position, but you know that could have been very easily the end of his race there with just 2 laps to go. So I think, yeah, a little bit lucky just to calm that one down at that time. Also, I want to go through, share the moment that cost Dark Viper and F1 Alex so greatly, coming towards the Casio triangle, this one, and yeah, it was just on the exit. I think F1 Alex just quite realised he was there, already had a little bit of a moment that knocked both of them off and really elevated F1 Scott into those podium positions, which kept all the way to the end. Of course, battling so bravely for 2nd position. Peya doing a superb job to get it back. And also, you know, it's the end of the game cycle. We can have a little look at a funny issue, especially when it affects Hayden Gullis.
Why is my car not going? Oh, wait, what?
That affects Hayden Gullis. He was in control of it, but he was also in the
weird.
third-party
Why
camera,
am I able to
which
control
is
my
just
car?
so
That's
funny.
strange.
I was absolutely bemused watching this in the background. I didn't think there was a swift way to actually bring that into the broadcast, but that is certainly a new one for me, and he did almost a whole lap in this kind of third-party RC cam kind of style, and yeah, quite funny in the end. But Hayden didn't end up competing in that one, and I think what he can do over the next 4 races.
Big fan of that. Thank you, Gareth. We will, of course, rejoin you after the next race, because I think if Hayden is very much involved, we'll see a few more clips from Le Assassin, of course, after the escapades that he got up to previously. Going into round number 2, though, we're switching to the F2 cars. This is what I wanted to talk about, because the biggest problem that the F1 drivers that got demoted last season had was they weren't able to adapt quick enough to the F2 cars. Obviously, Kurz was the exception. He won round number 4 in Bahrain. But if you take Dale, Ches and Taka, who was in the playoffs last season, across the 2 F2 races, 94 points available for the 3 of them, they picked up just 18 between them. That is not good enough. That's where the difference is made, I think. So, like you said earlier, Jake, the adaptation that these F1 drivers are going to make, because F2, they probably won't drive them that much, with the exception of the practice they've been putting in this week. It's going to be crucial to see how quickly they can get up to speed. And on a track like Portimão, that may help them because of how flowing it is.
Well, the issue that you've got an F2 car which has less power, first and foremost, but crucially, you've got a little bit less down. And because of that, you're not able to just damp the foot on the throttle and just send it into the corner and realise you're going to the ground. That's not how it's going to work. You're going to have to be a little bit more choice, a little bit more precise. You're going to have to pick and choose when you're going to want to prioritise getting the corner exit compared to throwing a car up the side. It's a different style of driving because it's a car, and it's not a natural thing to jump F1 down into F2. A lot easier to go from 2 where you've got less, jump back up F1. And so inherently, find yourself in the playoffs like 5 of those drivers from the F1 series have. You're at a disadvantage the moment you step into Portimão, because you realise everybody else has got a handle on this and you don't. And that is what they're battling against. And that's why the 3 F1 races have so much importance to them.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better myself. Perya jumping in the chat there saying, no forced feedback for qualifying. Well, you did a fantastic job of bringing it back in the race after qualifying down in P8, coming home in second place. Excellent work, sir. And we'll see what you managed to achieve for the next 4 rounds. Very interesting start there. We're going to jump on to Portimão in a few moments' time. Now, this wasn't a race that we've seen in season number 6, but we did see it last season in season 5. If you're watching F2, you would have seen that Zhou Guanyu was part of that race and working very nicely with Hayden Ghost. Just to go through some of the results, obviously the drivers that were in F1, that wasn't a... we didn't have the sprint race and then main race format then, so just one result. Player actually picking up a DNF there, so not great signs there. Dave Gaming with a P14, Kurz with P13 and Ches P16, so maybe not the best record coming in for those guys. On the other hand, Hayden, it was in F2, P5 in the sprint race, P1 in the feature race. He's going to be loving life, you have to say. F1 Alex, it was also the first race we really saw the true potential of F1 Alex. Came P6 in the sprint race, P2 in the feature race, was brilliant in there. Gwatz as well. Wasn't quite up to speed then last season, P14 in the sprint race, P8 in the feature race, and obviously no data there for Scott and Dark Viper. So interesting stuff there. You've got to be looking at Hayden though as the potential favourite here coming in F2 cars. Yes, he's got some potential issues with his computer going on, but if he can get into the race, he's certainly going to be right up there at the sharp end.
You want to be, isn't it? You want to be up at the point end. You want to be in a position where you can go out there and really scramble and attack. I think this is going to be super fun. And if you've got the opportunity to go from the front and attack, now's the perfect time.
Absolutely. And Portimão, anybody that watched F2 last season, it was a really, really good race for everybody involved. We saw some fantastic battles. I think we had a 6-car fight right at the end of the race there, including Zhou Guanyu. Of course, it was very, very fun to witness. We're just waiting for us to get going into onto the formation lap of Portimão. Should we talk a little bit about this track though, because obviously not on the F1 calendar anymore. It was a bit of a fan favourite though when it was on the calendar for, I think it was 2 seasons, 20 and 21.
Yeah, and I think sort of track which sit down and go, it's purpose built. It's effectively the younger brother of Estoril, which ran back in 9, and they built this Autodromo de Algarve to be this sort of spiritual success track. And I think it's wonderful. I think it's got some wonderful flowing sections, especially through the middle section of the lap. When you get to Craig Jones Corner, you get that down the hill, through the left, back up to Mao Corner. I think it's, simply put, one of the most lovely stretches of road you can drive from a driver's perspective.
And we've got to talk about the infamous Turn 8, don't we? Because remember back on F1 2021 when that was first introduced, that was basically like driving on an ice rink, turn number 8. And in F2 cars, like you said earlier, that have limited traction, that could be a slight sticking point for some of our drivers. We'll wait and see if there are any whoopsies there, especially for the guys that aren't used to these F2 cars. Obviously, we've got 5 drivers coming down from F1 this season rather than just the 4 we had last season. So it's going to be very interesting to see how that pans out. Like I said earlier as well, reverse championship order for the grid, so it will be Hayden on pole if he is in the race, which there is a little bit of doubt about. Gwatz will be starting on the front row, and I think we need to talk about him because didn't have a very good start, but if we look at his form in F2, last 3 sprint races picked up 12 points, last 3 feature races picked up 52 points. He is the form driver coming into this in F2. This should be where he's the most comfortable, and we should see a really strong result.
Yeah, and that comfort is going to be really important. It's got that element of comfort that you go through and work with. I think we're going to be saying that ability to go forward and charge through is going to be big. Now, no Hayden here for this one, so obviously the issues that he encountered have persisted, and that's going to be a real shame because that's going to lock 1 straight out the door with 2 zeros to go through. So effectively, you've got Creator Series playoffs exactly like last.
Yeah, Hayden, I hope he does come back at some point in the next 3 rounds. Hopefully those PC issues do subside. We'll see what goes on. You can see the order there. Gwatz on pole ahead of Dave Gaming, and we have a 50-50 split on tyre strategy. We love it, absolutely. Medium tyres for the pulse hitter, Ches in 5th, and then the 2 guys on the back row, Perya and Curbs, also on the mediums, and then the soft tyres going to Dave Gaming, F1 Alex, Dark Viper, and F1 Scott. Now, interesting stuff to talk about here. As we've seen in F2, the strategy has usually been start on the harder compound and switch to the softs later on so you can charge back towards your opponents. The 3 of the drivers, though, they've gone for the soft tyres off the start. What do you make of that?
Well, not trying to blast everyone's ears out at the moment. I've just realised where my mic issues have just standed forward. But you get that sense that some starting on the softs, some starting out there on the medium tyres. There is going to be a real element of, okay, some are going to get away quicker than others, but Portimão is a naturally hot track. And because of that, that wear on the softs is going to be really important and critical, especially when you consider how much elevation change there is and how most of these corners are parabolic in style, meaning that you don't have tight corners. Everything just lingers on a little bit longer than you expect. You're waiting to put the power down. The only exceptions to this, of course, are turns 3 and 5 out on the circuit, so you've got to keep your eyes out on those corners, Lagos corner and then VIP Tower corner. Those are the 2 where you can maybe be a little bit braver, but because of the tyre nature, I think those on the mediums, they'll have that better opportunity later on in the race.
And we have to talk about F1 Alex in this as well with the tyre wear, because while his pace is very good, he's almost known for being a little bit too hard on his tyres. Almost like Oscar Piastri, you could say, in real life. And I think he'll be pretty pleased with that comparison. But yeah, if he can keep these soft tyres alive, he's going to very much be in the money. Runner-up in F2 this season. He should be one of the big favourites, along with Gwat's on the front row. But we are lining up. Only 8 cars this time, unfortunately enough. We don't have Hayden Gullis with us, but we're getting ready to go. Start of round number 2 here in Portimão. Should be very, very exciting. Reverse grid. Let's see how it gets on.
Well, this is going to be stand and deliver. 5 lights on with Gwat on the front. Dave Gaming will look to try and make a charge as well. And we will get ourselves underway then and racing, heading off towards the opening section of the track. That turn 1 corner Primera is important. Wide's going to go Dave Gaming after the big lunge for the inside. Now to Lagos. This is where you've got to try and be committed. The first big braking zone of the lap. Up over the hill on board with Dark Viper. Trying to get this chase down. F1 Alex already up into second position. That confidence is very much there. But now descending down the hill. A tough braking zone as they rush on down into the VIP corner. Brakes are locking aplenty as they charge back up the hill.
Huge lockup for the race leader, debating 3rd and 4th is Dark Viper trying to slip past Dave Gaming. Roden Carlin versus Van Amersfoort, and it is the Red Bull livery car that holds on for the time being, but that's going to be a track limits penalty for going wide there. On board with the Prema of Curbs, already got up into 7th place. Ches, I don't know if you saw it, had a horrendous start from P6 on the grid, or P5 I think it was. Fell down into last place, just didn't go anywhere off the line, dropping behind Perrier, dropping behind F1 Scott and Curbs as well. But look at them filing through this middle sector. It is a beautiful track, so often called a roller coaster, as F1 Alex sets his sights on the race leader, which is Gwatz. And we have to think back to Miami as well, or not Miami, Imola that we saw last week. Not many people saw it, of course, but it was a duel between F1 Alex and Gwatz for the race victory. Bear that in mind.
Dave Gaming very nearly lost his machinery there, going down the hill out to Portimão corner. That could have been disaster because that was right in front of Dark Viper and F1 Scott, who are all there and all searching. Perrier at 1.1 back. It's going to need a bit of help, and now you're going to start seeing the virtuosi with the fast lap at the moment, but F1 Alex is on a rampage. Behind as well for 3rd, Dave Gaming and Dark Viper are also there, and the F2 faithful are 1 and 2, and now 1, 2 and 3 at this moment. The move at Lagos, comfortable there on Dave Gaming, up over the hill, tries F1 Scott to make sure that it is those who are in F2 that dominate at the front of F2. Defensive line half taken down into the VIP Tower corner and back up the hill for what is Portimão 2, sometimes known as the Samsung corner. This is that trading right-handers where effectively in the middle section of the lap, you've got to try and find an angle, and F1 Alex is searching.
Yeah, falling off the road. Gwatz locking up into that hairpin at turn 5 for the second lap running, but trying to use the soft tyres. It's the Campos of F1. It's going to swing it around the outside. No response there from Gwatz, and up the inside, I stumbled there because it was a late send from the Van Amersfoort of Dark Viper trying to get involved as well and maybe relegate Gwatz down 2 places in the matter of just a couple of corners. Yes, he does. The Van Amersfoort clean around the outside, and that is from 1st place down to 3rd for the pole sitter. Not ideal stuff there. It's going to be Dave Gaming in that Roden Carlin car. Still with F1 Scott very much in the battle as well, trying to challenge this Invicta.
Well, you've got to realise right now that Dark Viper making that move immediately is massive. He can set his sights on F1 Alex, and he'll feel wronged by the fact of the contact that F1 Alex managed to find with, of course, Persia out there, and Dark Viper with the fastest lap of the race. But look over to that left-hand side, the pinch that is there from F1 Scott, trying to force Dave Gaming into a mistake. He runs a little bit wide, out through the opening parts of the corner, but into Lagos once again. That is wonderfully constructed. Round the outside, he's going to start searching, but again, wrong side of the road. But if you're going to have a snap of oversteer like that on the exit, again, being slightly early on the power, Dave Gaming's done that 2 or 3 times now, already in the opening 3 laps. You're just going to hemorrhage time, and that's where F1 Scott, smooth as you like, finds himself with what he wants.
F2 drivers 1, 2, 3, and 4. Very nicely done there from the guys representing the F2 scene. Thankfully enough, we are back in full screen. That is going to be music to the ears of Gravy Brain, having to not look at our 2 faces for the rest of this F2 race. But it is still F1 Alex in the lead. But Dark Viper looking incredibly racy on the soft tyres in that Van Amersfoort car. The medium's obviously not working at this stage for Gwatz. But remember, he's going to come back at this leading duo later on in the race. And what will F1 Scott have to say in this matter as well? Will they drop the F1 drivers? Perja, Curbs, and Ches certainly have been dropped from the back of this queue, just over 1 second there. Dave Gaming at the moment just managing to hold on to the back of this train. Scott's actually had a really poor run through the final couple of corners there and could be under a little bit of pressure from the road and Carlin car. How close can Dark Viper get here to the back of the Campos of F1X? No battery to use, of course, just plain old slipstream and DRS. Can Dark Viper close up? Will he make the move into turns 1 and 2? Got to be careful of track limits as well. We've seen a few drivers running wide, in particular through the final corner, not quite close enough there, and will hold stage for the time being.
But it is a championship point there for that fastest lap, and that's where Dark Viper has that ability to smile for the moment, because the gaps are opening up a little bit between likes of F1 Scott and Dave Gaming. We're going to take a little look back. So this is what it looked like off of the start of the race, and this is where you're going to have to wake up and try and find that ability to go through, searching for an angle. Everybody was there left and right, and there down on the inside, Perja finding everything is going to be a little bit clustered off of the front and up over the top of the hill. That's how quickly the gap can form.
Yeah, you saw the understeer that Perja was having to deal with in that ART, going through turns 1 and 2, and Ches really caught out by that in the dams, just had nowhere to go, stuck on the outside, which was the reason he fell down into 8th and last place. Now, interestingly enough, look at the delta. Dave Gaming, the F1 driver, the lead F1 driver, has fallen out of DRS range, 1.4 seconds now. This could be the moment for the 4 F2 drivers, too many numbers there, 4 Formula 2 drivers to bolt, pull away from the rest of the pack and put them all selves in a beautiful position to try and challenge for the top 4 places.
Well, at the moment, F1 Scott's going to have the biggest smile because he got himself 3rd, of course, in the opening race at Suzuka. That's going to give him championship lead at this moment in time. If he can climb up a couple places, give himself a buffer, that's all he's going to be wanting, and then he'll be on easy street from here on out. But flicking through the Primera and over towards the Lagos corner, the late corner, this is where F1 Alex has to be really switched on here. Dark Viper finds himself there just behind Gwatz, who of course finished right down at the back, 1 championship point. This is crucial for what he wants in his promotion, because he realizes I need every point that I can get, and I'm with the 4 that are there that have run in F2 around with me. Look at the gap right now that has started to form. Perja is realizing, got to get a hurry up going. That is Dave Gaming, who is going to find himself in the pressure cooker.
It's very interesting to see. I wonder if we'll see the grudge match continue between F1 Alex and Dark Viper. Perfectly happy at the moment to keep stationing 1st and 2nd, as we saw F1 Alex and Curbs doing in round number 1. But these two, it's going to be ultra important for them to try and hold on to these positions. Obviously, they lost it in the final couple of laps in Suzuka. Can't do anything stupid here. Gwatz doing a fantastic job on those medium tyres to keep up with this leading duo. And F1 Scott, like he was in Suzuka as well, just lurking at the back of this trio, waiting for any opportunity to snap up a couple of places and a few more points.
Well, points sometimes do, in fact, mean prizes. And that's what they're looking at. A seat at the table. There are 4 seats there, and F1 Alex will be the first to depart for the pit. So he'll undercut, try and get himself on the medium tyres and go through. Dave Gaming's going to follow. He didn't like them too much out there. Only 5 laps on the soft tyres would indicate to me that he really struggling a little bit with Ware, having to try and break away. But Dark Viper, I would expect, and F1 Scott to potentially cover off that move, come in next lap, because any longer and they're going to be dealing with cliff issues, which will mean that those tyres are going to start really not feeling nice underneath them.
It was the weakness we spoke about, wasn't it, with F1 Alex? Can he manage these tyres long enough on a track where the load you put through them, through these long high-speed corners, could be very critical? And as it seemed there, coming in earlier than everybody else, with the exception of Dave Gaming, wasn't able to keep the tyres alive and keep the temperatures in a good window. Now we're going to see what Gwatz has got. We're going to see what F1 Scott's got, but most importantly, we're going to see what Dark Viper's got. He is bolting on this lap. You can see him trying to pull away from the group behind. F1 Alex might not be the one, but we'll see. That's him coming in early, trying an undercut strategy. We'll have to wait and see if it works out later on, but we'll see if Dark Viper can try and make this overcut work. He's pushing very hard, almost kicked Gwatz out of DRS range. Is this going to be the strat that potentially costs F1 Alex the race win and even more points in this playoff battle?
Well, this is where Dark Viper's got to be quite clever here. If he stays conventional, it might just work out as a strategy, and I think this is more conventional. The longer he can stay on the soft tyres, the more he's able to really play ball. And in fact, he's going to go out an extra lap on top of that. F1 Scott's going to dive in, but Dark Viper really extending out his soft tyres, trying to make sure that he's got 2 laps on the mediums and that he will have that advantage of those tyres are fresher, and so he can attack them longer. That's going to be big. Peya, 5 seconds back off of the race lead. Not what the doctors ordered, but at this stage, I would say his race is with Dave Gaming, and he's hoping that he's going to have a huge amount of pace on the soft tyres when you're later on through. And remember, there's no refueling, so traditionally, it is to be said that the quicker tyre you go on is better when you have less fuel.
Like we've seen in real life sometimes, Scott's drive track seems to have disappeared a little bit. Round the outside we go with F1 Alex. He is going to hold position ahead of the PHM drivers. Scott files out of the pits on those medium compound tyres. Decided he'd had enough of the softs, getting a new set of boots on. He's still only 1.5 seconds, 1.4 seconds behind F1 Alex. So that undercut hasn't really got him a lot of track position, because if you think about it, Scott was about 1.4 seconds off the back of Dark Viper. So things looking very rosy for the bright orange and black Van Alsort car that is still leading the race, with Gwatz sat just behind, 7/10 the gap. Been hovering at that little that station for the majority of this race so far, and I think this will definitely be the lap that Dark Viper comes in to get rid of those soft tyres. You'd imagine they're going to be screaming at this stage. Also into the pits, we saw Curbs and Ches trading places in the box as well. Dark Viper almost dropping it, coming through 14 and through the curve of 15. Surely we're going to see this Van Alsort car into the pits. Yes, we do. Will Gwatz come in as well? Doesn't. Stays out. The Invicta going to continue. We've got a team radio as well. If Viper stays out, we stay out. 5-second penalty though. I didn't see. I was reading the team radio. 5-second penalty for speeding in the pits. It's another mistake made by Dark Viper. And already, this is going to be costing him points. If this is playoff hopes, going up in smoke as he enters the pit lane.
That's quite massive there for Dark Viper, and it's the one thing that you've got to get right, is that pit entry. You must be underneath, otherwise you are going to be penalised for it, and I'm sure he would have been preoccupied with his issue off the exit of Sarge's corner, heading through South Corner and in towards the pit. And as he exits, he's going to exit with a pretty sizable margin over who he needs. He's jumped F1 Alex in the stop, but crucially, he's got to make 5 seconds up with better tyres, so that's going to be the challenge. At the moment, he's looking at Dave Gaming as probably his biggest challenger out there at this moment in time, and saying, right, so long as I'm top 4, that's something, but it's another setback for Dark Viper, and he won't be happy. Here comes Curbs.
Curbs challenging Perry, just come out of the pits. The ART driver, the Prema on warmer tyres, going to send it up the inside of turn number 5. Looked like the squeeze was firmly applied on the inside, but Curbs are going to go straight up the inside. They're going to drag race out of the corner and up towards this very tricky turn 7 and 8 complex. Through the kink of 6 we go. I think Curbs is probably going to run out of road on the outside. No, nice respectful racing there, leaving the space on the outside. Curbs still going to hold it. Got to be careful of traction on exit. Gets it down BEA beautifully, and I think this is going to be move completed finally. Up into 6th place we go. Perry not satisfied with that though, but does hold station, dropping into 7th place there, sitting behind the Prema, with Ches a further 2nd back. But they're 2.5 seconds off the back of Dave Gaming. Gwatz is finally into the pits as well for those red stripe soft tyres. He's probably the favourite to win this race now on those red stripe tyres, because he's going to be faster than F1 Alex, and he's comfortably going to be within 5 seconds of Dark Viper.
Well, this is one of the longest pit lanes, and this will feel so torturous, how slow he's going to go, and the drive along this straight for Dark Viper and F1 Alex caught onto the back of Dark Viper here. This is where it's going to be important. F1 Alex thinking about a move's not going to find it. 1, 2, and into third with soft tyres. I think Watts is going to be quite happy with where he's sitting, realising that he's got the advantage. Doesn't have to outright pass Dark Viper on track, but will have to find a way past F1 Alex. And at 1 second back, it's paradise.
Well, you'd imagine he's going to have to pass Dark Viper because F1X, his only way of winning this race, you would imagine, is to send it up the inside of the Van Amersfoort and take the lead of the race. It's an inverse of what we saw last week. It was F1X chasing Gwatz and taking him with only a couple of laps to go. This time, it's Gwatz chasing the Campos of F1 Alex, and it's going to be very interesting to see who comes out on top in that battle. Don't forget F1 Scott, though, just a second and a half further back, still very much in with a shout of not just the podium, but potentially challenging these guys as well as he gets those medium tyres up to temperature. The F1 drivers, though, dropping back 3 seconds near the gap between 4th and 5th place. Dave Gaming. Curbs has managed to drop Perrier, who's now coming under pressure from Ches, which is surprising because we've seen Perrier in F2 last season. He was pretty competitive, so obviously struggling with that adaptation. Look at how close F1X can get to the back of the Van Amersfoort car there.
You walk away for a little bit and suddenly all that preparation falls away. It happens so often that you do need to ingratiate yourself with the car, with the opportunity, and a lot of drivers will think that it's not what they've got. I've got a plan, says F1 Alex. Yes, the plan is you got to hold off Gwatz for 4 more laps. So tell me about that great plan, F1 Alex. It's going to be a case of needing to use, I would say, his plan is use Dark Viper as a slipstream option. Do not make the pass, and that will hold up Gwatz because he won't be able to find the pass. I think that's his strategy.
Yeah, but the problem is that the Invicta already only came out of the pits on the previous lap, all over the back of F1X, who has a wobble coming up the hill. And this could be the opportunity going defensive, but it's still going to be the inside given to Gwatz down into turn number 5. Later on the brakes, maybe slightly too late on the brakes, double lockout from Gwatz and the Van Amersfoort in front. But through he goes. That was easy as you like. No defense offered from F1X. The red carpet rolled out for the Invicta car, who steams up the inside to take second place, which is, of course, the net race lead.
And that was the purple first sector for him, which indicates just how big that is. Now, we'll take a little look then, diving into the pits. This is what did it, and how much over. Oh, it was close, but not enough. And that is the 5 seconds. And look at that reaction there from Dark Viper. Both hands off the steering wheel. I can't believe I just did that.
Yeah, and he's only going to be looking at 4th place in this race, which if you consider, he was probably the fastest driver, barring Perrier, in Suzuka. He's been the fastest driver here in Portimão as well. And he's going to get little to no result from it, not even a podium finish to his name. So really poor start for Dark Viper when you consider the pace he's got. What is Gwatz going to do here? F1 Alex has dropped massively though. 1.4 seconds, if that is the fastest lap, an extra point going to the Invicta driver. Scott's now actually in DRS range of F1X. The Campos really struggling as he screwed the tyres, as he overheated them trying to battle, as Curbs gets up into 5th place ahead of Dave Gaming. That's going to be crucial for him as he consolidates himself as the lead F1 driver, not just in the race, but in the championship standings as well. 3.5 tenths between Dark Viper and Gwatz. This is only being a matter of time. Ches, with that 3-second penalty, will probably confirm himself finishing 8th and last in this race, unfortunately enough. But yeah, Gwatz, will he send it up the inside again? Will it be deja vu of the previous lap? No, it will not. Staying behind for now. 2 seconds now, the gap. What has happened to F1 Alex?
Tyres are gone. It's simply that. Pitted in earlier than everyone else by 1 to 2 laps. F1 Scott's got 1 lap fresher tyres, and he's not been pushing them as hard. And as such, you really get the understanding here that F1 Scott, who is babying those tyres a little bit more, has got something that F1 Alex hasn't out there at this point. Now, we know that F1 Alex is a heavy user of the tyres. It might be down to the way he sets up the car. He wants to go out there and be aggressive. Gwatz says, if Viper lets me past, I'll keep feeding him the DRS. So that's going to be a little bit of a bone thrown out here, that Gwatz wants to go out there and help Dark Viper. But does Dark Viper want to play ball, considering he's made 2 mistakes in 2 races, or he's been caught up in 1 mistake and he's forced his own? Will he understand that, and will he want to play that game?
Well, he can certainly get dragged along by the Invicta car because those soft tyres certainly going to be quicker than the mediums at this stage. This should be very straightforward. No defence offered for Dark Viper as we start the penultimate lap of the race, and that is the lead of the race for Gwatz. Turn the table on its head. Gwatz was last in the last race. Too many last places there as he gets up into the lead now as Ches is into the pit, probably to try and get the fastest lap point, you would imagine. Scott very close to the back of Alex as well. I'm amazed that these tyres have gone off so quickly. Dave Gaming with a penalty as well as he's passed by Perrier as he was Curbs a few laps ago. Still under pressure, F1X. Look at how close Scott is. This could be a repeat from a couple of laps ago. Scott tries to go at the inside of turn number 5. Once again, no defence offer, but he tries to cut back and runs into the back of the PHM car. That's not going to be the best sign through their son, and he's going to have to be resigned to finishing in 4th place here.
Well, that's not going to be ideal out there, and really got the sense that F1 Alex's tyres are deciding they do not want to play. F1 Scott with a very concerted overtake through the roller coaster of Craig Jones, up over the top of the plateau, double apex turn in at Portimão corner, and then back down the hill towards that final section of circuit where you just have to be very, very reliant on the grip, very similar to a circuit like Barcelona. This final sector through Sages corner here, this fast right, 3rd gear, well, I wouldn't say too fast, but it's fast when you're trying to put the power down on the exit and really navigate through. But then down through the south corner with a lap to go as well, everybody realizing, keep an eye in the track limit and stay in the track limits.
Got 3 seconds off the lead, nearly 3 seconds off the back of Dark Viper. So if this race was a couple of laps longer, Dark Viper could potentially hold on to that 2nd place. Doing a very, very nice job with Gwatz there to get dragged away from the cars behind. F1 Alex dropping more and more time. He's 4 seconds off the lead now. He's got to be careful he doesn't lose so much time on this final lap that he drops out of the 5-second window between himself and Dark Viper. Certainly is a possibility. Currently at 3.4 seconds. Wouldn't put it past him to lose another 1.6 seconds, judging from the fall-off that he's had in the last couple of laps. But we've got to talk about Gwatz. He needed this result after what happened in Suzuka. Got caught up in an incident earlier on. Wasn't able to recover from it. This is the perfect response from the driver that's come into this race in the best form of any driver in the Creator Series playoffs.
Well, you have to say that his form in the second half of the F2 season pretty much put him into this place in the playoffs. Pretty much put him in a case to be made of, I've got to find my best. When the chips are down, Gwatz is the driver who steps up to the plate, and this is him finding his .500 batting average right now as if he were Barry Bonds. Now here comes the run down the hill through Sages corner, and he will have just one more to navigate, and that is the south. And Gwatz will make sure that his season is back on track in the playoffs. He will take victory, and now watch the stopwatch to F1 Alex. Dark Viper will cross the line, and it will be classified as 4th.
Dark Viper wasn't actually that far away as Curbs just beats Perrier over the line, Dave, and then Ches, who's going to be going for fastest lap on this final visit. We'll have to wait and see what his sector times are if that Red Bull livery Downs car can pick up the fastest lap, because, like we've said, every point is going to be crucial. You can't see if he's got any purple sectors there, but Gwatz, brilliant drive. F1 Scott collecting the points, racking them up, you could say, with another podium finish, 2nd this time. F1X does pick up 3rd place. He'll be disappointed with that result, as will Dark Viper with that penalty. Curbs the lead F1 driver ahead of Perrier and Dave Gaming, who ended up 16 seconds off the lead. But this is the moment for Ches. Will he get the fastest lap over the line? Yes, he does. We just saw it flash at the top of the screen. So that is 2 points for Ches as he comes over the line. That's going to be crucial in his fight to try and stay in F1. Just trying to stay within track limits. F1 actually knew the task, what the task was, trying to hold on to 3rd place. But yeah, he'll be disappointed. Gwatz will not be. He is leading the way and puts himself back in contention to get through to the F1 series.
That's a pretty important one in terms of picking up that fastest lap bonus point. If you're trying to minimize the damage of having a bad race, that fastest lap bonus point is a great way to try and recover it if you think you can't get back through. It was a torrid race for Ches, but that's going to be really, really important to go through. But the F2 drivers have all stepped up and said, right, what can we find? The answer is points. And F1 Scott will now take the championship lead here in your playoffs, heading to round 3.
I said it before we came in that the thing that was going to decide who goes up and who stays down is the F1 drivers in F2 cars. And ultimately, if you look at it, Gwatz F2 driver, Scott F2 driver, F1 Alex F2 driver, Dark Viper F2 driver, and they finished comfortably ahead of everybody else as well. So these guys have got to get it together. Ches in real danger of losing his seat, as is Dave Gaming. They've not had brilliant starts to the playoffs. They've got to get going in these F2 cars. This is the opportunity for them. They're not taking it at the moment, which is going to be a big shame for them, and they're going to leave themselves with a lot of work to do with 3 races to go.
Yeah, and these 3 races get more and more important. The good news for the F1 drivers is that those races, 2 of them are in their domain, which is going to be where they've got that smile. We will head to Losail for the 3rd round of this one, the Losail International Circuit in Qatar. But if you look at that, F1 Scott now on top. It's then Curbs, Peya, and Gwot who are in. F1 Alex, 2 points adrift. Dark Viper, a further point back of that. And how important was that bonus point for Chesnoid Gaming? Jumping up there on 8 points instead of 7. And it makes it feel 5 points, still very manageable.
Yeah, but if you look further down, we don't know what the situation with Hayden is, of course. I mean, unless he wins all the 3 races if he comes back, which I highly doubt. No offense, Hayden, but yeah, don't think that'll be happening. I think Hayden will be going down into F2. Dave Gaming, though, he's got 8 points difference between himself and 4th place, with drivers in that gap as well. It's going to be so difficult. He's got to win a race, you feel, in the last 3. Whether that's next time out in Qatar, whether that's the finale in Imola, you feel like he's got to win a race to get going in this in these playoffs. Ches as well. He hasn't got the grandstand result that he had last season. Won the opening round in China after taking pole position. He hasn't got that so far, just 8 points to his name. The battle you think is going to be between Peya, Gwatz, F1 Alex and Dark Viper. F1 Scott with 7 points margin already. That's a very, very good buffer for him to hold on to. And Curbs has probably been the most impressive so far, you have to say.
Yeah, I would definitely say that. And I think that when you sit down and say, right, what do we have to offer? What's going to be out there? Who's finding what? You know, I am loving what is going on right now, and I hope we're going to see more and more.
Absolutely. Now, some things to talk about with what happened last season before we go over to Gareth in the Clipper Corner. I forgot what it was called there. To have a look at some potential incidents that we saw and discussed a few controversial moments. The top 3 drivers that went up, Matty D13, Curbs and Hayden, all picked up 3 podium finishes. So that tells you that consistency is key, but you've got to get the big results in. If we look at Dale, had a 1st place and a 2nd place. His other 3 results were P5, which was okay, but Bahrain, it should have been better because he got a penalty. DNF, P8. And for Tackle as well, who finished just 4 points behind Ches in the end. Just 2 podium finishes, a couple of 3rd places, a P8 and a P7 in there as well. So if you get a result that is terrible, Matty D13 finished top of the standings last season. Worst result was P5. Curbs, worst result P5. Hayden was a little bit different. Worst result was P7, but was consistent after that. 2 bad results and you're already in a really sticky situation.
Yeah, and where do you go and gather that back up from after that? That's going to be the real question you got to ask, Tom. Where are you able to gather up those points if you have a bad round? It requires so much more. And I think that's going to be where we have that scramble. It's going to require so much effort to get back through. You're going to need to be almost crystalline perfect if you want to get through the final stages.
And for the F1 drivers that are in the bottom 5 at this stage, going into the next F2 race at Miami, they're not going to be confident going into that either, are they? Because the F2 drivers dominated that one. You'd expect them to do the same. But while we have our little interval, should we head over to Gareth in Clipper Corner, see what he has to say about some of the moments we saw in that race?
Yeah, well, I don't have anything new to add. Let's just say that. I do want to go over this Dark Viper clip just one more time, because the thing is, he thought this was an 80-kilometre pit lane speed limiter. And obviously on the right, it wasn't 80. This is what he's complaining about. He was complaining, saying, oh, I thought it was a 60, it's not an 80. But it does actually say 80 on the right, I believe. If you just go in a little bit there, I think we can stop it actually. And it says 80 kilometers. And then he goes in there and it's 60. But what he's getting confused about is that's miles per hour. On his, I believe. No, it's not. It's kph. No, I don't even know what he was complaining about, but I know that the track is wrong. Basically, that's what he was very unhappy about. He was looking at 80. It was actually 60. So he was a bit unhappy about that. But in fairness, the track is incorrect, not him. But one thing for me that I'd like to know is F1 Scott at the top. Just 2 very consistent results has got him right at the top there. And I was speaking to Infratic Fabio. Before the race, and he said that no F2 driver is going to come F1, and I think he was wrong about that. And I know certainly yesterday he was definitely wrong about an air conditioning unit in his room, where he was leaving the exhaust gases to just fill up the room with hot air, which is not the way to set up a portable air conditioning. And Mel was right, he was wrong, and he's wrong about this one. So just thought I'd throw a little bit of spice in there.
Yeah, Fabio, you've been called out there. But yeah, F1 Scott hasn't necessarily done anything spectacular. If you look at his results, he's got a P3 and a P2. 3 podium finishes have been enough for everybody last season to get you up into F1. So very much well on the way to that. And Suzuka, he was there to pick up the pieces when the mistakes happened from the guys around him. And that was kind of the same that we saw in Portimão. The mistake from Dark Viper in the pits, the poor strategy call, and then terrible tie wear of F1 Alex. Scott getting in there, picking up points, just want to collect as many points as possible, and he'll be up into F1. I don't think he came into this with massive expectations, but now I think he's got to be thinking about it.
Yes, certainly. I think his expectations is he wanted to complete the story arc of this. He has spoke about this a lot. He's been a 2-month journey for him. He was sat here in my very position last time in the playoffs, and he said he wants a bit of that action. He's got involved with the F2 this season, and if he ends up in F1, he's happy, but he'll be commentating either the F1 or the F2, depending on what he gets in. And I think he's just excited to complete the journey, but, you know, him on top. We're very close to race 3 at Qatar. I'm very excited to. So I'm going to throw it back to you to lead us in.
Yeah, Jake, what do you think about this Losail circuit, Qatar? Track limits, I think, are going to be a big one. Tyre wear as well is going to be a big one. The temperatures that you can get from some of these corners are going to be very, very high. F1 actually need to watch out for tyre wear. This is the opportunity for these F1 drivers that have been struggling, get back into the familiar machinery, get some confidence flowing, because boy, do they need it.
I think that confidence is everything right now. I think that we are sat at a precipice right now for those F1 drivers. They realise they've got one bad round left. That one bad round left is not this one, it's the next one. And I think that's going to be super duper important. So when you sit down, when you realise that, okay, you've got one round that you know is not going to be as good as the others, you have to maximise this one here at Losail. It's the sort of circuit where I think it's a little bit more difficult to overtake just because this track wasn't necessarily built with Formula 1 in mind. This was more built for MotoGP in terms of its inception. So when you get an understanding of that, you're going to realise, well, you know, you're trying to fit an octagon effectively into a circle hole. It will fit here, Tom, but it's not natural. And so as such, you get a track like this where I think you're waiting for one overtaking opportunity, that front stretch.
Yeah, absolutely. But we're going to see, I think this is more of a confidence track, you have to say. You've got to be really confident on turning, really confident under brakes. Obviously confident at keeping your tyres alive and keeping the temperatures in check. We've done it for the previous 2 races, so we'll go through some historical results. The last time the guys raced at Qatar, we haven't seen it since season 5, but we've only got 4 drivers that have raced here before. And Curbs hasn't actually raced here since season 3 when he picked up a DNF, so not great for him coming in. Perrier in season 4 was 8th place. Season 5, Hayden was P18, but Ches was P10, and that's a pretty decent haul of points considering where he was usually finishing in the standings. None of the F2 drivers have been here before, neither is Dave Gaming in the Creator Series, so that's going to be interesting to see. Ches, I think, is someone we should talk about here because we've seen it. I think there was another Qatar race where he did very well. It might have been season 3 also. This seems to be a track that suits him, and this could be an opportunity. Like we saw China last season, like we saw at Vegas last season as well, where he just managed to get over the line to stay up in F1. This is his opportunity to get going again. Dave Gaming is more of an unknown, as are the F2 drivers. We don't necessarily know what to expect there. Ches is the constant, though.
Ches is a constant, and he has a great grid position when you consider he will be starting second on the grid here for this one. So on the front row, with the ability to go out there and challenge, I think that's going to be something that he's going to try and leverage. Dark Viper, though, I think is going to be the one who's going to be looking at, okay, 2 mistakes already on the outside looking in by 3 points. He's going to want every little bit of this one, I think. And I think that's going to be quite telling. F1 Alex going on to the mediums. And then you've got Curbs and F1 Scott deciding the mediums. Everyone else is looking to be aggressive off the start here. Go off with the softs.
Yeah, so Curbs and F1 Scott may have to just bide their time a little bit. You can see the top 5 in the standings. In the bottom right, 16 for F1 Scott, 13 for Curbs. 16, I've got that completely wrong. I do apologise. 18 for F1 Scott, 16 Curbs, 13 apiece for Perrier and Gwatz with F1. That's just 2 points outside on 11. Curbs and F1 Scott, though, probably going to bide their time. Same with F1 Alex. You'd expect he's going to lose places. Still without Hayden Gullis, so that probably means that Hayden will be dropping out, and I don't expect to see him for the rest of the playoffs this evening, which is, a little bit disappointing. I need to not bottle this one, Dark Viper. Well, I hate to use the B-word bottle, but he has made some crucial mistakes that have cost him a big chunk of points. He's got a lot of work to do, but we've seen he's certainly quick enough to do that work.
Well, he's got the talent, and that's something that he's realising, but this is a really, really tough and intense racing championship and situation. 5 races one night and 2 different types of car. It is going to test you, and you are going to make mistakes. And it is nigh on impossible to be completely flawless through 5 races. Yes, he's made the mistakes earlier on, but he's got to realise he still has time to clear his head. So if he can just clear his head and realise that in this moment, if he gets his head down, has one clean race, he can start going places. He'll have some momentum to work with.
Most important factor, though, is trying to stay out of trouble. He's around drivers that also need a result. They need a podium place. Even a P4 will be gold dust to someone like Dave Gaming or for Chesnoid. This is the opportunity. They can't fumble it, as we've seen a couple of times so far already. I don't want to use the B-word bottle, but you could certainly apply it. Scott going to be starting last, sometimes in the sprint race in F2. That has been his kryptonite, being unable to make his way through the field cleanly. Can he do it today in the McLaren? We'll have to wait and see.
We certainly will. There'll be 5 lights on, and he'll have to charge from the back as he has the privilege of the championship lead. Dave Gaming and Chesnoid on the front then, looking to make some progress as we get underway here from the Lusail International Circuit at Qatar. Immediately Dark Viper looking to challenge here in towards the opening corner. Little search there from the likes then of Persia, making good progress. Chesnoid with troubles though. He's back to 4th, to 5th, to 6th. A big wiggle through the opening corner has dropped him way back now down the field, and with everything to do.
Yeah, a couple of taps there. I think the first one was F1 Alex giving it a tap from the rear and then touching with Dark Viper as well, who is all over the back of the sister Red Bull car. The AlphaTauri Dave Gaming leading the way still as F1 Alex and Gwatz battling over 3rd and 4th. Ches getting back ahead of Purdy with a send up the inside into the hairpin of turn number 6, but it's still the AlphaTauri in front, and a huge cluster of cars behind. Dark Viper's lost a whole heap of places down from 2nd into 5th place. F1 Alex, Gwatz, Purdy, Ches. Now through goes Curbs around the outside. He's down to last. He must have front wing damage.
There has to be there for Dark Viper, and that would have been disastrous if he's got any small chink in the armour, and it's pretty decisive there. That front end plate is going to be big, and you take a little look and you say, well, where do you have it? Front right doesn't look too peachy at this moment, so he is going to have to try and dabble back through as you get this massive cluster behind there. Dave Gaming, who is keeping the world behind him at the moment. But F1 Alex, what a start. Did anyone realise that he started on medium tyres and he's going for the race lead? He's having a stormer, and he'll go and try and make the move without the need for DRS. He'll get through, but watch out behind. Here comes Gwatz, straight to the inside, trying to look for that race lead, and he's gonna scrap every single stage of the way in towards turn 2, wrong side of the road. Here comes back Dave Gaming.
Don't get greedy, Gwatz. He's in a good place. Don't end up facing the wrong way. He's got to defend from Davey, trying to get these places back that he lost on the run down into turn 1, but he's sending it up the inside again. Was there a bit of contact? I don't think there was, as the Mercedes and the Alfa Romeo still pointing in the right direction. Somehow, after just a lap, Ches has picked up a 3-second corner-cutting penalty. That could prove crucial as he holds on to 5th place ahead of Curbs, and F1 Scott confirmed for us that Dark Viper has picked up some front wing damage. That is going to be crucial. Could be. His playoff hopes absolutely gone, unfortunately enough, for the Red Bull driver. 32 seconds off the back of the pack after making that early pit stop. F1 Alex into the lead. He's been in the lead for the first 2 races. Can he hold on to it? That's been the question that he so far has answered very, very negatively.
Well, he's got to realise that he is on the better tyre situation, and he is there. But look at how Gwatz just shadows through this section of track. He is on the bubble as things stand, and if he can go back-to-back with victories, that would be massive for his push into F1 next season, and of course with a new game to boot as well. So now you get the real sense here that with Gwatz, he has got a smile from ear to ear. They will now have DRS available, but not here because the activation line was on lap 2. Here comes Peya looking, but Gwatz to the inside, hoping for the race lead, but on the outside, F1 Alex using that drive off the exit just about covers it, but watch out through 4 as Dave Gaming there out of 2 has just been pushing Peya a little bit off circuit, so now we're seeing some elbows.
Yeah, the Ferrari giving a little bit of a shove, showing the door fairly aggressively as Ches gets out of shape. Once again, big lunge up the inside. Is this the grudge match that's starting to form between Dave and Peya? Ending up still as we were in 3rd and 4th. Kurz very close to the back of Ches. All of these drivers, first down to 7th, nose to tail. I think that's going to continue until we reach the pit stop phase. Dave being questioned for some of his driving. He's got to try and get past the Alfa Romeo of Gwatz in front of him, who's losing a little bit of time maybe to F1X. But if you look at it in the context of the actual race, 3/10 isn't too much. But look at how close the field is. F1 Scott, like we've seen in round number 1 and round number 2, biding his time, waiting behind the rest of the pack. Replay of what happened at the start. This is F1 Scott from 8th on the grid. Got to be careful that we keep an eye on the main action though, because once again for the second lap running, it is F1X being pushed through this twisty final sector by the Alfa Romeo of Gwatz, who could potentially have a look up the inside. This was Ches. There was the tap with Dark Viper first of all that lost him all the ground, and we can see all of the cars fighting through. Was that a bit of contact maybe with F1 Scott potentially? We'll have to wait and see what that was. But under pressure, I think this is going to be very, very easy for Gwatz. Getting past with a helping hand of DRS. Will Dave Gaming follow suit? It could be a little bit of a sitting duck F1X. We don't know what wing levels he's running, but does stay in second place for the time being.
Well, he's able to keep there for the moment, and any gaps that he is able to deal with, he's got to just hold as much as he can back. Reason why he'll gain it back at the end of this race, and he'll realise that those drivers are about 2 to 3 laps away from making their pit stop. So he doesn't want to let Gwatz run away too far, otherwise it's going to be too far for him to pull it back. But what he's also going to realise here is that every single corner is going to matter, and there is Dark Viper on a hard set of tyres. So he's trying to bring it desperately to the end of this race. He's going to get now the fastest lap of the race, but expect that to chop and change so long as this race continues.
Yeah, gap opening up, out in front, nearly 0.6 of a second. F1X Team Radio talk me through these corners. I don't know them, so he obviously hasn't practiced Qatar very much. And you can see that potentially because he's not troubling the racing line through a couple of corners. Most certainly turns 1 and 2. He's been a little bit wide both times around. What's starting to bolt? He's come alive since that F2 race. He's now 7/10 clear as F1X struggling to hold on to the coattail. Big wobble there from Dave Gaming. Player's going to be sniffing at the rear wing of that Honda-powered Alpha Tauri car, potentially on the run down into turn number 1. Ches and F1 Scott and Curbs as well. Very much still in the ballpark as the medium tyres for Scott and Curbs just starting to maybe see an advantage. F1X is blinking coming down the straight. Could lose 2 for the price of 1 into turn number 1. His Pay is sending it up the inside. The Ferrari doesn't quite have the overspeed to get alongside the Mercedes, but he's going to continue to scrap very, very hard with Dave Gaming, and they've been doing so for the first 5 laps of this race so far. Swinging it around the outside goes Pay. For the moment has got up into 3rd place, but Dave not going to go down without a fight, but does eventually have to concede, and that is 3rd to 4th for the AlphaTauri. Scott's going to be next on the list as he has just got past Chesnoid in all of that, squabbling for 3rd and 4th place in that McLaren, up into 5th place. And once again, as Ches is so late on the brakes there and could lose a position to Kurz, that's going to halt both of their charges as they lose a little bit of time. Scott making his way through, just, sneakily almost, just biding his time, getting the overtakes when they arise. And he's once again in a brilliant position. Right, we need to save battery now. So we obviously planned for that move on Ches, and it's worked out perfectly.
It has, and of course, having to save that battery means that he's not going to be out there trying to make those moves. He's planning his attacks right now, and he's doing what he needs to, knowing that Peya, who's behind him, is in front, knowing that Curbs is the only one inside the top 5 at the moment that is out there right now who is behind him, realizes that's going to be crucial. Now, in comes Chesnoid Gaming to make an early call. Lap 5, this is the gamble, so he's got to go 9 laps on a set of medium tyres. But look out back at the front again, because F1 Alex, using the slipstream, is going to find his way past Superman out there. He was Clark Kent, was Gwatz in race 1, but races 2 and 3, suddenly he's emerged from the phone booth and he really wants to go out there and try and be Superman.
Yeah, and don't know if you saw behind the Purdy was so late on the brakes again. Obviously forgot to press the left pedal, but managing to keep it on the road. That certainly wasn't on the road for Gwatz as he fell off the circuit over the curb on the left-hand side. Could be under pressure from Purdy. The medium tyres you would expect at this stage as Dark Viper continuing to fly, but he's come out 5 seconds behind Ches. He's just come out on the medium compounded tyres. So yeah, Dark Viper certainly with it all to do. Scott's been overtaken by Curbs, That's interesting. Didn't see that coming. Curbs had lost a little bit of time, but obviously in trying to recharge the battery, position lost there for the McLaren, which could prove crucial in a few laps' time. Gwat's just about sticking to the back of the Mercedes and then sort of equidistant back to F1 Scott in 6th place. Who's going to cover off the move we saw from Ches, though?
Well, I don't think many drivers need to, because remember, you got 3 extra seconds that you've got to play with too because of his early penalty. So he's not as much of a threat in this race as everybody else is. Thoughts about it, 1 and 2 dive. So Gwatz will go. He'll be followed by Peya into the pits. And that was a late call by both of them. Do I want to? Do I not? Diving into the pits.
Yeah, completely locked up as well. We'll see where they come out in relation to Ches, who is 4 seconds clear of Dark Viper. Those hard tyres, they've been working pretty nicely, but you would imagine he's going to stay that far behind, if not extend that gap between himself and 7th place. Little bit of games going on, I think that was. Gwatz and Peya diving into the pits very late. Little bit of a dummy going on. We've seen it in F1 in the past. So yeah, we're going to have to see where they come out. You can see the lights flashing at the back of the car. Here they come. Here is Ches in the Haas charging down the pit straight. I think he's still going to be behind. The undercut not working out for the Haas. He's certainly going to be behind, which is going to be important for the likes of F1 Alex, Curbs, F1 Scott and Dave, who have stayed out. They aren't going to lose that much with the undercut.
Well, F1 Alex realises he's not going to lose too much out there, but keep an eye out on the move. Well, we're not going to quite get it there on replay there, which was Curbs' move on F1 Scott for position. So that was going to be crucial, but Curbs is quietly bringing himself in. Remember, he's also on the medium tyres right now, so he will be on the best tyres for the end. So here's another look on how that move was made. That is a massive wiggle there off the exit of the corner for F1 Scott. Little too greedy on the power. Now that's over the top of the circuit there, so that would have been a lovely overtake coming through out of 6 into turn 7, but everyone's diving, and the big shock there is that F1 Alex has dived in only 7 laps on the mediums. That's a big call.
Certainly is. He obviously wants to use the soft compound tyres for as long as possible. We don't know how well they're going to last, though. That's the issue. His tyre wear has not been the best. The driver staying out. You can see their Curbs onto the soft tyres. Go F1 Alex. F1 Scott will also put those red striped tyres on. He's going to be a factor later on in the race, although his pace at the end of that stint on the mediums wasn't that impressive. Dark Viper, for the 2nd race in a row, gets a 3-second penalty for corner cutting. Is going to be resigned to last place in this race. Here comes Gwatz and Peya. They're going to fly through. Ches is going to come through as well. Fastest lap to boot as well for the Haas driver. We thought the undercut wasn't that powerful. Obviously, we saw the lap that it was, because F1 Alex, Dave Gaming, and Dark Viper and F1 Scott have come out miles behind.
Yeah, and they've been all just bottled up behind each other. And so when you've got everyone struggling around, you get a bit of laps of clean air, and there is the advantage. So now, turn to you, Curbs. What have you got available? We were meant to pit there. That's not what you want to be hearing. That's not a level of confidence there from Curbs. And Curbs realizing that he might lose out quite a bit. And you consider he's only tenuously inside by 5 points at the moment. So he's going to want every point that he can pocket.
Hindsight's a wonderful thing, isn't it? But Curbs is going to obviously come in at the end of this lap. We'll see where he feeds out. Dark Viper, he's been brought back into this courtesy of F1 Scott. You can see in the chat, didn't quite know where the pit entry was. Obviously, it's not as it is in real life. It will be on the new game. Curbs does file into the pits to get rid of those medium tyres. Going on to softs, bear that in mind. He's going to be very quick. Gwatz will, well... Oh, we've got a yellow flag. Who is that? I think that is Dave Gaming, who's dropped it going through. What corner is that? I think it's turn number 10, potentially dropping it. And the AlphaTauri drops down into last place. Scott is going to try and challenge to get past Dark Viper, who that you'd imagine is going to be a very easy overtake. Side by side on the run as they cut the beam. This is Peya versus Gwatz. It is the Ferrari that comes out on top. There is Curbs exiting the pits, probably going to be in 5th place, you would imagine, behind F1 Alex in the Mercedes. But no, he's in 4th, actually, staying ahead of F1 Alex. There you can see in the background of shot. Ches, I mean, the undercut has worked out beautifully. He's got his 3-second penalty, but at least he's got some track position in 3rd place.
Yeah, and he's now got to use it there, and that wasn't great through 14 for Dave Gaming, especially when you consider that he's down on 5 points, and it's looking more and more likely for Dave Gaming now that he's going to be on the wrong side of Lady Luck in this playoff scenario. That might be a telling sign for him. But yes, Chesnoy Gaming getting what he wants, and now he's just got to sit down and work with it. This is no guarantees racing he's got out there. Those medium tyres he's going to have to scramble with, and he's finding that confidence now after what was a very tumultuous opening phase. But you've got to remember, those soft tyre runners of Curbs, of F1 Alex, of F1 Scott, they're going to want to start rampaging. They're going to want to try and find a way through. F1 Scott 4 seconds back, a lot less likely, but Curbs and F1 Alex, they're definitely going to want to start making moves.
And look out in front as well, 9/10, now over a second. Gwatz, I think, has just lost the DRS, potentially as Dave Gaming consigning himself to last place. We thought that was going to be occupied by the Red Bull of Dark Viper. It's actually Dave Gaming. They were battling over second and third. Would you believe it, about 5 or 6 laps ago? Fastest lap goes for Perrier, no DRS for Gwatz, and this is what we were expecting from Perrier. Out in front, and he is doing what he likes. He certainly likes what he's doing, as is Curbs up the inside of Ches into turn number 1. Scott nicks that fastest lap back in the McLaren, but he's 4 seconds off the back of this group of cars as Curbs gets back up into third place and can chase after the leaders on his red stripe soft tyres. Ches down into 4th. That will be 5th, even if F1X doesn't get through with that 3-second penalty for the Haas driver Curbs. This is probably going to be a yee-haw then. No, we meant to pit. We saw that a few laps ago, I think.
Yeah, I think we did, and I think he's just reiterating we were still meant to pit, and he's now trying to make up that time in terms of his race. So that's going to be a case for Curbs to go forward, because right now he will leapfrog F1 Scott in terms of the championship, but Peya is also in a great position to leapfrog them both, provided that Curbs doesn't get past Gwatz. So if Curbs can get past Gwatz, he is going to take back control of the championship lead here in the playoffs, give him the prime position to qualify. But lest we forget, as wide goes Chesnoy Gaming, and suddenly F1 Alex wakes up to a reality of I need to get through, and I need to get through quick. This is not what you're going to be wanting for Chesnoy Gaming, with 3 seconds of penalty being hounded by F1 Alex. F1 Scott is going to wake up and say, I'm going to be within 3 seconds in, around about now.
Curbs is absolutely flying. Fastest lap. He's going to challenge for second place down into turn number 1. Through goes F1X. That was pretty regulation getting past the Haas of Ches, but around the outside we didn't quite catch it, but that is Curbs absolutely steaming through the field. He got past Ches on the previous lap, repeats the order on this lap, getting past Gwatz up into second place, and is now going to chase after the Ferrari of Perrier to try and take, and I can't believe I'm saying this, a second win out of 3 starts. That is unprecedented stuff, considering how close the field is. F1 Scott down in 6th place. He's probably going to get 5th, but at one stage this race was looking really rosy for him in 3rd, I think he was, before the pit stop window. Now down in 6th, probably only going to get up to 5th place on those soft tyres. This has not been the race the championship lead, and these Curbs will almost certainly assume the lead of the championship, and then it's going to be a very big cluster of drivers behind, all on fairly similar points totals.
Well, this is where you got to try and pick through. There are 5 drivers out there who are sharing their points, but 4 can go through. And this is where a round like this, a medium round like this, sets the scene as they go through. I don't deserve to stay in F1 with this performance. Now, that is a very big statement out there from Chesnoy Gaming, and he can't afford to let that gap go out. But if he finds himself in 5th or 6th, actually, which he'll find himself in at the moment, this is not great. But look at Curbs over this last lap. He has been marauding forward. Fastest lap after fastest lap. He's not only lighting the timing sheets purple, but he is lighting them up in Qatar purple colours. He has simply said, this is my track. Everyone else watch out.
This could be Curbs confirming his spot of staying in F1. He's made the perfect start, won round number 1, finished top of the F1 drivers in the F2, albeit it was only 5th place, and he's back into the lead here. Dark Viper and Dave Gaming continue their score, albeit this time it's only for 7th and 8th place rather than 2nd and 3rd as they fight for the wooden spoon a long way adrift of the back of the pack. Scott is slowly closing up to the back of Ches, but not really doing it at a rapid rate of knots. He knows he doesn't need to take too many risks, because if he gets a penalty, he'll be only 6th place in this race. So Scott probably taking it a little bit easy, just banking the points for 5th place, which I think is probably smart considering his position in the standings. What can Gwatz do though? Can he get back within DRS range of Perrier? Has the Ferrari burnt his tyres up by trying to bolt early on? We saw the ease that Curbs managed to get through. Can Gwatz do the same thing with just 2 laps to go? F1X a little bit detached now, 2.5 seconds back, with Ches hovering around at 1.2, 1.3 seconds off the back of the Mercedes.
Well, that's a wiggle there from Curbs. He's desperate to try and stay away. Dark Viper looking around box, so he's not happy out there as Dave Gaming picks up another 3 seconds. So those hard tyres are cooked. So that'll be a case of go in, and they're both going to dive in, get a set of soft tyres and race it out for a fastest lap bonus point. try and give themselves some security with their drive. So that will be a big thing to watch at the end for those two down at the back. But Curbs now with the gap he wants. Peya in second, Gwat's third, F1 Alex in fourth, and F1 Scott will effectively be fifth right now at 1.5 seconds back of Chesnoy Gaming.
I think by the end of this race, we will have a much better picture of what is going on. And I think it could be 5 drivers fighting for 4 spots. Dark Viper and Dave Gaming mind the gap at the back of the pack. They're going to be in big trouble, you would imagine. Fighting over 7th and 8th, yes, they're going to get 1 point for fastest lap, you'd imagine, but it's not really going to be enough. They're going to be probably, well, at least 10, maybe 15 points back, potentially, which is going to be crucial. And I don't think they're going to be able to make that up in the final 2 rounds. Ches will be in 6th. We'll have a lot of work to do. Peya's out. What's going on? He's binned it. He's binned it going through turn number 10 and 11. I think that is crucial. As I'm talking about 5 drivers battling for 4 spots, the Ferrari throws it into the barrier, and that's a flashpoint that we weren't expecting. No safety car because we're on the previous lap. Elevates Scott, elevates Ches. Will elevate Dark Viper and Dave Gaming as well. And Peya, who was looking so comfortable in second place, banking 10 points for his efforts and confirming his place at probably staying in F1, has now left himself with an absolute mountain to climb, probably the size of Everest, you would imagine, with what's gone on here, because he's going to be getting a big fat 0.
Unforced error. And that is huge. And you understand that Peya was in no threat at all. He was keeping a margin to Gwat with tyres that were just starting to go. And see you later. There goes the point. Gwat, this is huge for us. He is going to be so thrilled with that, because that just about cements him inside that top 4. F1 Alex is going to have a big smile, and I think this is a lifeline here for Dark Viper, for Chesnoy Gaming, that they weren't expecting to be handed out here with half a lap to go.
Absolutely not. 4 seconds the gap between first and second, but Gwatz will not care because he's going to bank a whole host of points in second place. The only noise that I can hear from that Purger collision is the old school into the barrier. Oh no, if anybody gets that reference, I'm going to be very happy. Scott, an absolute goat of the scene. Moving back to the action though, it's going to be Curbs. He won in Suzuka. He was very, very good. I was going to say decent, but that's going to be doing a disservice in Portimão. He's going to come around the final couple of corners to make it a Williams victory for the second time in 3 races and probably confirming his place as staying in F1. It is a beautiful position for Curbs to be in. He's dominated the race since coming out on the soft compound tyres, got through a couple of places, and that is first place for Curbs over the line. Gwatz is going to be delighted, starting with an 8th place in Suzuka, comes home to bag second, and F1X finally gets his podium. Scott was only 7/10 behind Ches over the line, but does finish in 4th. Ches, that's a decent haul of points. He's going to keep himself very much in the game with what happened with Puryer there, and it's Dark Viper and Dave Gaming a long, long way back, and their chances of getting up into F1 for Dark Viper and staying in F1 for Dave Gaming starting to fall by the wayside here. But will they get fastest lap? We'll have a nice bit of trepidation over the line. Who's going to get it? Put your bets in, everybody. It is not going to be Dave Gaming. I think it might have been Dave Gaming there, actually. Couldn't quite catch it.
Yeah, Dave Gaming, there was 2 clicks that went through, so I think Dave Gaming's just stolen the fastest lap away with the DRS on the straight, but wowee. Now, here's something to keep in mind as well. If you DNF from the race, that's 0 points. Peya did not get a finish. He's not got points. So that's going to mean he's not going to be where he wants to be. And right now, there are 3 drivers with a mountain to climb, and they're going to need a mistake from someone out there in the top 4 of the championship overall. Fantastic drive by Curbs to pick up what was needed. Gwat's doing what he needs to. F1 Alex what he needs to. And F1 Scott just staying consistent. All you need to do sometimes.
Yeah, you have to feel for Puryer, to be honest. He was in such a strong position, but one little mistake means he's taken a trip to the donut store, unfortunately enough. But we'll have to wait and see, because he might have been he was classified as 2 laps down, so he may pick up 1 point there. We'll have to wait and see what is determined there. But there are your final results. Brilliant from Curbs once again, 7th on the grid, flying through to finish first. He is going to be your championship leader. Then comes Gwatz. Brilliant, brilliant drive again. Finding form at the right time. Took him a little while to warm up, but does find his feet and is second place ahead of F1 Alex and F1 Scott. F2 drivers, 2nd, 3rd and 4th in this race. They're making a charge for F1. That is certainly the case. Ches wasn't 6 seconds behind Scott on the line. He comes home in 5th, courtesy of those 6 seconds worth of penalties. Then Dark Viper, who missed out on the fastest lap by nearly 0.3 of a second. Dave Gaming does get that extra point, and Puryer will get a point for being classified, albeit down in 8th place.
So that 1 point, how much is that going to pivot and make sure that this is something that he can still scrap for? His big advantage is going to be race 5, but they've still got to scramble through Miami in F2 machinery. That's what it looks like. 5 points to F1 Alex, who we know is possibly the fastest driver of the lot here, Tom, when it comes to F2. So you're going to have to rely on Curbs maybe not having a performance, and that's a gap of 14 points. You can't close that down in one race. The maximum you can score is 13. So you sit down and realize, well, who's going to be in trouble? We got 3 F2 drivers in the top 4 into an F2 race coming up. This is disastrous for Peya and Chesnoid. Dark Viper is going to have to run like the wind here in Miami coming up.
Look at the gap, though. Peya's 5 points back, but if you look at Gwat's in 3rd place, he's got 9 points as a buffer between himself and 5th. Scott's got 10 points. I think Kurz, we can probably say, is going to be in the playoffs. Going to be retaining his seat. 28 points, 14 clear of Peya. This is going to be very, very interesting. Only retirements, really, Curbs, is going to be dropping out of the top 4. So keep it out of the wall, buddy, is my advice there. Further down, like he said, Ches needs a barnstorming result. If it's going to come, it's got to come now. F2, potentially not the time where he's going to get it, to be honest, because the pace that the F2 drivers have shown, while the F1 drivers have struggled in F2 cars, probably suggests that he's going to struggle. And Dave Gaming, 11 points back. We can probably rule him out. It's harsh to say, and I feel for him, but yeah, Dave, I think, is going to be down in 8th place. Is Peya, though. He's got the pace. Just needs to get over the line, because if he does, F1X is certainly going to be looking over his shoulders.
Yes, and F1 Alex here is thinking about how can I improve my security blanket moving up forward. What we've got coming up next could be massive in terms of pace. So when you sit down and realize, okay, this is the Miami circuit. This is one of the few tracks out there which has 2 very long places you can go out there and make overtakes, so chances are going to be there aplenty. But it's also one of the tightest circuits through what is effectively the beach section. When you go through from 11 to 16, it is pretty much a tightrope. So I think it's sit down and what you've got. But the one driver who I think's kicking himself after this one is Peya.
We've had some interesting news. Before we head over to Clipbook Corner, GB saying in the chat, and Hayden confirming it on the Steam Deck, he's coming back. He's not going to be going up, of course, but, or staying up, I should say. He's going to be the spanner in the works that absolutely nobody wants. He's going to be the most unpopular cat that's thrown up into the tree full of pigeons. That's going to be a very, very interesting dynamic, and we'll come on to that as we discuss Miami in a few moments' time. But in Clipbook Corner, Gareth Allen, what have you got to show us?
Yep, I have that moment that cost Peya so dearly. He was running in 3rd position when he made the mistake. Let's go on board with Peya, the Frenchman, coming around this left-hander in the midfield, getting on the curbs, unsettling the car, and that spiked it towards the left. And we can also hear he's just so disappointed with that. That really could be what costs him an F1 place going into the new season. So let's hope it doesn't, but who knows? That could be Peya, losing a good chunk of points. He did get a single point, of course, for his troubles, but yeah, I think he's kicking himself, as Jake said.
Absolutely, yeah. That could be a pivotal turning point, but you could look at it in a positive way. I think that will motivate Peya to be even stronger, come back fighting. And he's only 5 points off the back of F1X. Yes, the gap to Gwatz is pretty substantial. He's got to really overcome that gap. And in F2 cars, you think it's maybe going to be unlikely in this event in Miami. But yeah, still everything to play for. Dark Viper in there as well. Ches, he's got an opportunity. Those 2 drivers have got to get a big result. They've got to be on the podium, you think, in this race. Dark Viper, that's certainly a possibility. Ches, he's probably going to have to pull something out of the hat.
Well,
oh my goodness.
That's wet. And a wet Miami, a wet Florida is not often something that you see. Normally it's thunderous if it starts raining in the panhandle of the United States of America. That's going to be huge. But, Tom, let me put this to you another way. That incident there for Peya was an 11-point swing in the championship. 11 points. So you think he's dropped 9 points because he was in 10th and he's gone down to 1 point. But then F1 Alex has gone from 6 points to 8 points. That's an 11-point swing. 9 plus 2 is 11. That is seismic in a championship as short and as intense as this.
And he's not got that long left to rectify it. 2 races to go. He's got to put in a performance in F2. And in that F1 race in the finale, he has got to be on tip-top form. You can see the weather. I was going to go through my stats from previous races in Miami, but it's probably all thrown out of the window because of the weather that we've got. But we will have a little look through. Obviously, we saw it this season in Season 6. Was only a couple of rounds ago. We'll start with the F1 guys. Perrier, second place in the feature race, or the sprint race, sorry, and then P9 in the main race. Dave Gaming was also pretty competitive. P6 in the sprint for him. P8 in the main race. Hayden hasn't actually driven here since season number 4, where he came home in 12th place, which make of that what you will. Ches, it was a difficult outing for him, as it was for Curbs. 15th and 12th for them in the sprint, and then the main race 12th and 14th. On the contrary, in F2, it's actually quite interesting. F1 Alex retired in the sprint race, had a bit of a stinker, and was only P6 in the feature race. Now, I remember that race very well. His pace really wasn't that impressive, so we'll have to be careful of that. Gwartz was solid as ever, P6 and P4 for him. F1 Scott was very, very competitive. P3 and P2 had a last lap scrap with Mr. Dale over that win, just getting overtaken by the Campos on the final lap. And Dart Viper won the sprint race, came third in the feature race. So these F2 drivers that we've got, 3 of them very, very confident, got great success around this circuit previously, and F1 Alex is the fastest of the 4 of them. So this could make for a very interesting dynamic. As I say this, though, I think the manual's going to be thrown out the window and the script firmly put into the shredder with this weather. Scott thinks he needs a podium here. I think he could potentially finish a little bit lower and still be pretty comfortable.
He's got 10 points in the pocket right now over Perrier. I think that when you're looking at it, what he needs is don't lose points to Perrier. This is the great unknown here at this race. And this formation lap, I think, is actually going to be the most crucial one of the season. To keep the heat in those wet tyres is going to be so tough. And I think that's what they're going to be scrambling about with when it comes to that start. That start's going to be crucial. Everyone's going to be on cold tyres, wondering, what do I need to do to keep myself in line? 5 points the gap between Perrier and F1 Alex. Look out for this start, because this is going to be one where if you think you've practiced it in the dry, that's one thing. If you practiced it in the wet, that might be one of the last things some of these F1 drivers have thought of.
I think saying it's wet is probably a bit of an understatement. Oars and paddles probably more appropriate than the wet compound tyre at this stage of the race. Obviously, there is the potential that the weather could change, but I doubt that is really going to happen. It's certainly not going to dry up in the space of 11 laps. 35% race distance, of course, increase for a 25 that we saw in the playoffs last season. And this is the final F2 race. So this is the chance for the F2 drivers to put an even bigger gap between themselves and 5th place. Gwartz got to be challenging. F1 Scott got to be challenging. F1 Alex got to be challenging for a podium. Curb starting from last place. Didn't affect him last time out after he started from 7th. Cruised through to take a brilliant victory. How can Scott make his way through? I've said this on the F2 broadcast a couple of times. His big issue has been making it through the traffic in a sprint race. Sometimes he struggled. When he hasn't got up into sort of 7th or 8th place at the end of lap number 1, he just sort of gets bogged down in traffic and can't make his way through, and eventually actually gets caught up in some incidents. So that'll be interesting to see how he does there. Perrier is the driver we've got to watch out for as well. In the ART, what can he do from 4th on the grid? Dart Viper starting from 3rd. You think he's probably the big favourite with the track position he's got. And slightly annoyingly, people have changed cars. So it's actually Ches in the Van Alsort and Dart Viper in the Dams car. But I think apart from that, everything is staying as we were as we get ready to go for the penultimate round.
Between 199th Street and 203rd Street Northwest. This is soaking right now around the Hard Rock Stadium. There will be 5 lights available to them, and these 11 laps might be the toughest that they'll have all playoffs long. Dave Gaming gets a pretty solid start out there, but watch out on the front. Perrier with a great start, but it's almost Skittles through the opening section. Dark Viper having to scramble about with Dave Gaming and now will be shuffled out through the S's of 2 and 3, and now over towards turn 4. Just like that, Dark Viper away, Dave Gaming second. Perrier finds himself in 3rd, and F1 Alex hasn't had the best start. He's down to 6th.
We almost went Valtteri Bottas bowling into turn number 1. Dart Viper so late on the brakes. Got it stopped. Gave Dave Gaming a bit of a shove for good measure, but got up into the lead of the race. You think he'll probably stay there with the pace that we've seen from him in Formula 2. And Dave under huge pressure, not just from Perrier. He's got Gwatz there. Ches is there. Scott, F1 Alex right on the back of Scott as well, with Curb sat at the back of the pack, just trying to keep out of trouble as we go down into the chicane of turns number 10 and 11. Through the kink of 10, sorry. We're almost 3 wide, are we here? Curbs. He's made up 2 places as F1 Alex drops down into last. F1 Scott stays in 7th. Big slide there. I think that was potentially Gwatz going wide, or was it Dart Viper? We've got a cluster of cars going off. So many cars going wide. In fact, this Ches who falls off the circuit will lose a couple of places, you would imagine. Scott and Curbs continuing their scrap, and it's actually Scott trying to challenge the Van Amersfoort as we come into the horrendous Mickey Mouse section.
Oh, it's so tough. Under the turnpike, they now start to scramble about, and Perrier losing out just in front there to Gwatz, who now finds himself up into 3rd. This is where they're going to get the big advantage, but because we're in wet weather conditions, there is no drag reduction system in play. It's too dangerous for it, and there is Dart Viper leading. Day Gaming there! Contact on the straight! Perrier and Gwatz there colliding together, and that's not what you want. A malfunction, quote-unquote, at a junction, and where have you gone, Dave Gaming? Straight on!
That leaves Dart Viper all on his own and in front. Big cluster of cars behind us. Dave Gaming went for a picnic at the runoff of the hairpin at turn number 17 as we start lap 2. It's Gwatz up into 2nd. That was a potential 2nd flashpoint for Perrier as he smashed into the back of the road of the Invicta car, as Dave Gaming smashes into the side of F1 Alex. F1 Scott up into 4th place as Ches struggling to get the traction through turns 2, 3 and 4. Could be under pressure from Curbs as well, as the 2 drivers that contested the playoffs last season battle over 5th and 6th. Dave right in there as well, side by side. Through goes the Prem around the outside, is he? Ches is going to be later on the brakes. I think he's going to run Curbs out of road, and does. Ches holds on to 5th place for the time being.
Oh, this is massive right now through the marina section, which will not be plastic there. Those boats will be floating right now as they rush on forward. Now for the long straight in the attack. Dave Gaming on the rampage, trying to get himself back through. Chesnoid Gaming next up on the list, but watch out because Curbs has got a little bit of straight line speed as well to go through. You've also got Gwatz and Perrier and F1 Scott all together, and they know what they need, and F1 Scott's almost got his podium. Where do you want to go if you're Dave Gaming here? On the heavy braking section into turn 11, known as the beach, and just like that, he'll have a bash at the beach as he goes around the outside. Still has to hold it here for 13 and stay low, but look at the up and under from Curbs, and he's going to have next to no room to go. He gets shuffled out for his misery.
Yeah, contact a couple of times there. Once with Dave Gaming on the entry, once when he went over the curb, and that is Curbs down into last place, ironically enough, spinning on the curbs. This battle between Perrier and Gwatz is going to continue. Perrier getting past Gwatz down into turn number 11, but he's going to try and get the place back around the outside. Doesn't have the straight line speed, almost selling the dummy there as he did in Brazil in round number 1 of the F2 season. Stays behind, locked the rears, almost does a reverse entry drift into turn 17, but stays pointing in the right direction for the time being. F1 Act was also caught up in that little half spin for Curbs over the curbs, and he has dropped down into last place as well.
Well, this is going to be really tough for F1 Alex. The last place he wants to be on the bubble is dead last in this race, which is what he fights with 1 championship point. Gwatz getting really close to Perrier right now, and F1 Scott just following in the footsteps right now and back through on Curbs. He will go with F1 Alex, so he's now jumped up, but right now this is a lake that they're having to navigate their ways through, and those blue-walled wet weather tyres right now are having to clear a lot of standing water. Now we'll take a look here off of this start. This is how quickly you've got to be alert. So covering over to the inside, and look at how much puddleage there is on the inside. No way was Dart Viper ever going to get that stopped.
Yeah, using Dave Gaming very much as a break there and almost doing a Sergio Perez that he did last week as that Scott into the wall. Was that a lazy little jink over to the left-hand side? Hopefully no front wing damage there as Gwatz is going to try and get 2nd place back from Perrier on the run down into turn number 11. Not close enough to make a move, and they'll stay as they were with the ART in the lead. In 2nd place, in the lead is Dart Viper, 4 seconds clear. This is exactly what he needs to recharge his playoff hopes, because he was, I can't remember how many points back. I think he was 6 points back from F1 Alex. That's going to be a flip, and 12 points for Dart Viper plus the fastest lap. F1 Alex currently only scoring 2 points. That's going to be an 11-point swing. We like 11-point swings, don't we?
Yeah, not the first time we've seen an 11-point swing involving F1 Alex here today in the playoffs, and this one would put Dark Viper 5 points to the good, but he's got to remember that Peya's there, and Peya's probably the fastest driver when it comes to Imola, which will be the final race after this of the playoffs. On the brakes into the very, very difficult turn number 17, and then you've got the scramble now towards the end of the lap. Watch out, because Peya has got Gwot here, there, and everywhere. To the inside goes, searching at turn 1. Not going to be able to be there, but this is nigh on impossible for Gwot at this stage. He is in Schrodinger's overtake, attack and defend at the same time.
Yeah, Scott giving him a little bit of respite, courtesy going slightly deep into turn number 1, but he's got a great exit through 2, 3, and 4, and could potentially put Gwotz under pressure, but once again, not close enough to make that move, as they'll stay in second, that's not a number, second, third, and fourth for the time being, but almost pushing him through this horrible, continuous left-handed corner, and that's Gwotz going a little bit wide. Scott has sent it up the inside, licking the stamp, putting it in the post box, and flying up into third place, and like we saw in Suzuka, he's not satisfied finishing third. He wants to run at the ART of Peya as well. No DRS to help him this time. Just good old-fashioned slipstream in the rain as well. How is he going to make this move done? Is it going to be defensive from Peya? Yes, he does go over to the left-hand side, but not got the overspeed. Actually going to have to defend once again from Gwotz, who's had the mother of all exits out of turn number 9 to get alongside the PHM car, given just about enough room on the exit, but drifting his way around the stadium section. Who is going to come out on top on this gap? No room to the left-hand side for Scott, as he's almost in the barrier, but finally in this duel between the two F2 drivers, gets up into third place. He clouts the bollard Max Verstappen style.
Well, no floor damage there, but you get the sense that Gwot, who actually caught the white lines going through the long 6 and 7 section, found himself on the wrong side, but was able to use the power to get back. Now he'll prove it again, that that's a little bit higher downforce there for F1 Scott that maybe he was thinking of. Those wet weather conditions, sometimes it does pay off to have higher downforce because you've got more ability to work with out there. It was getting a little bit spicy there. Understatement of the year from F1 Scott.
Yeah, and he's still behind Gwotz as well. If I could speak French a little bit better, because I think that's French, I'd try and translate what's in the chat, but I imagine it's probably not overly PG for us. On lap number 5 we start, and 5 is the number for Dark Viper, 5 seconds, and in front. Terrible run through turn 1 for Gwotz, and gives Scott a potential opportunity, but he just couldn't get the traction down well enough to get up into third place. But once again, he seems to have much better traction for Gwotz. I wonder if that's a potential traction control difference between the two drivers. They've let Peya in the ART fly away from these guys as well.
To say it quite nicely, this is gridiron weather that we've got out there at the moment here around the Hard Rock Stadium. This is something more akin to watching the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Cincinnati Bengals go at it, more rather than here in Miami. But you really get the sense that with F1 Scott, he has just got to keep a level head right now, because the more that he gets caught in effectively a rose bush in terms of the battle he's got with Gwotz right now, it'll bring Chesnoid Gaming back towards him, and that could be something quite huge. It will also bring F1 Alex in, and F1 Alex is having a really underrated drive right now. He's got past Dave Gaming, he's got past Curbs, and he's got Chesnoid in sight, and he's fighting oversteer here into the turnpike.
Remember, no mandatory pit stops for the drivers in this wet weather race. They can go all the way to the end on these wet tyres. You would imagine that is the strategy that is going to be favoured by everyone. Round number 3 or 4, I think this is going to be between Gwotz and F1 Scott. Can the PHM car get close enough to the back of the Invicta to take third place down the straight? F1 Alex is a further half a second back from Chesnoid, but I don't think he's going to be close enough. And actually, I think Gwotz has actually got better straight line speed than F1 Scott, so maybe running slightly lower wings. Peya closing a little bit on Dark Viper. That gap has just dipped under 5 seconds between first and second place, but still very, very comfortable. The two drivers that needed a result the most after what happened in the previous race, they are putting the wrongs to rights here in Miami.
Every single point will matter, and of course with Dark Viper finding those points, this is huge, and that gap of 5 seconds, he's done all that he can do right now. The question's going to be, what does everyone else around him manage to manifest at this point? So he's certainly scrambling about, doing what he needs to in the rain, and that is just keep it on terra firma, and he is doing that beautifully. There is F1 Scott eyeing up Gwotz now, and it's a double apex through these corners. You've got to stay wide. You're on a tightrope there. Don't touch the white lines. and then maximise the exit. And he's got so much traction as F1 Scott. But remember that higher downforce that he's got? Where's he going to find the pass on the straight?
Yeah, it's going to be very, very difficult. Almost clattered into the back of the Invictor of Gwatz coming out of the double apex corner. F1X continues his recovery drive as he charges through the field. Ches could be defenseless here as he tries to go defensive down into turn number 11, but could be helpless to avoid the attack from the Campos. Who's going to be braver on the brakes? Curbs is a very handy spectator for us, but I think Ches might just hold on to this. He squeezes F1X, but F1X with the better traction on the exit and does get up into 5th. Is that Curbs trying to nip at the heels of Ches to get up into 6th place? Not quite. Dave Gaming has lost a whole heap of time, in fact. 3 seconds off the back of this crew. Not quite sure what's happened to the Rodin Carl in there as Curbs sniffing around the rear wing of Ches, trying to get as many points as possible. Think about this. He has 28 points, remember, on the scoreboard. 29 was the magic number last season. 1 more point and he could be in a very, very decent position. He's only getting 2 at this stage, and with Dark Viper, Puryear, even Gwatz getting some really good points here, F1 Scott as well. 29 points, I think you might need more than that.
I think you definitely do need more than that, and in comes Dark Viper in for a stop. So those wet tyres don't necessarily have the longest tyre life out there, and so that's aggressive from Dark Viper, and hopefully with his pit stop, he's going to be out in a window that he can go out there and attack again. So if that is a sign of everything else, I think we're going to be seeing a lot of drivers going, you know what, we probably are going to have to pit for another set of wets.
Here's the opportunity for Scott. Gwatz having some screen freezes. That is going to compromise him as round the outside goes the PHM driver. Gwatz can't send it up the inside of 4. And that is Scott finally up into 2nd place on the road. Interesting that Dark Viper was the driver to blink out of our leading contenders. Nobody's come in for a pit stop yet. The race leader, that's not normally how it works if you watch F1 or F2 in real life. The driver in the lead usually waits for the guys behind, especially considering he had such a large buffer from the group behind. He wasn't going to get undercut by anyone. So interesting there from Dark Viper. I don't think he changed his front wing either, so no damage there. So a regulation pit stop. Will everyone come into the pits as well, or will they just stay out? This is really, I mean, it's a confusing strategy when you're in the lead. If everybody else would box behind, I'd understand it. F1 Alex still trying to catch the back of this crew as another rear lockup from Gwatz into turn number 11. We've got a replay here of F1 Scott. This is the overtake that we saw, just getting that better traction from Gwatz, as Scott's been getting throughout the whole of this race so far, using that traction control that I think he is running to his advantage, and gets around the outside and up into 2nd place. Tyre wear is massive in the F2 cars. That is true, but it is still very strange to see that Dark Viper was the first person to come in.
Well, if Viper goes purple sector 2, we pit. Question. Now, that's going to be something important. Oh, contact on the straight there. Scott and Gwatz deciding that they want to try and duke it out right now. And that is another case of F1 Scott trying to find some authority. No chances then to dive in. And I think it's a little bit late to start thinking about it. Yellow in sector 3. That's Dave Gaming.
Second time he's taking a trip down that escape road. That's going to bring Dark Viper up to the back of the Rodin Carlin car. Scott and Gwatz continuing to battle. They cannot get enough of each other in this race so far. And it's the PHM that once again comes out on top. But Gwatz going to try and stay as close as he can to the back of the Scotsman to give himself an opportunity, maybe on the run down into turn number 11 with the lower wings he's got. Puryear, interestingly enough, these guys have been battling so hard. Puryear's not pulling away. And conversely, F1 Scott, or F1 Alex, sorry, is not catching these guys. So they're battling extremely hard whilst lapping quicker than everybody else. That is very interesting. I think we've got to talk about Dark Viper, though. You mentioned that it might be too late. Is this the blunder of all blunders? He's 10 seconds off the back of Ches. He's just been passed by Curbs for 5th and 6th place. Has he thrown this away? He was so comfortable out in front. 5.5 seconds. I mean, this would be his playoff journey over.
Well, look at the rain. It has certainly lightened a little bit, but not by every amount that's there. So I think this is a case of he's gone on an aggressive one-stop, relying on the wet tyres, doing what wet tyres do. He will get the pass done on Dave Gaming here. Around the outside, he'll have to try and navigate his way through. He'll have the inside then for the long sweeper. Curbs will get 3 seconds worth of penalty for multiple warnings. That might be huge because that's Chesnoid Gaming now who will jump in front. But you are really reliant here, making that stop at over halfway, mind you, on everything finding purchase. And I think he's just left himself too much to do, and that's not where he needs to do. We've made the right call. Absolutely you have, Gwatz. That's the call that's going to almost perfectly place you into F1 next season.
Maybe a little bit just inexperienced there from Dark Viper. Hasn't done too many F2 races. Was a reserve at the start of the season coming in. Maybe thinking that everybody else was going to follow him in behind if he set purple sectors. That is not the case. If we can get the gap to the leader up, we can see, because my mental maths is certainly not quick enough. 17 seconds he's got to make up in 3 laps. He can set all the fastest laps he wants. That's not going to be enough.
No, he'll need 6 seconds a lap from here. 5 3/4. Not going to happen. No chance. And that is now going to be reliant on everything else. That's a 52 by comparison 3. So that's going to be 2 seconds quicker that he's gone. He's tried to reinvent the wheel here, Tom. It's as simple as, if the wheel isn't broken, then there's no reason to reinvent it.
The wheel's spinning in the right direction. Why push it the other way and start going backwards? That's the way to look at it. And you've got to think as well, he's catching Ches at quite the rate of knots at the minute. He's got to pass cars, and we saw Dave Gaming certainly didn't go down without a fight in that battle for 7th and 8th place. It's going to be another point, just one singular point for Dave. That will almost certainly rule him out of keeping his F1 spot. Perya, got to give credit to him as well. He's kept the gap to F1 Scott and Gwatz at around 0.8 of a second. It's been sort of up at a maximum of, I think, 1.4 seconds at one stage. This has been the perfect response to the disaster of Qatar. And I don't want to, touch wood that nothing happens this time around as well. This is going to be a huge 12-point bank for him.
Yeah, and those 12 points, do not count them just yet, because F1 Scott might want the win, Gwatz might want to get in, and Curbs, he'd be fuming right now if he's Viper. I would guarantee that is exactly what Curbs is thinking about Dark Viper, and I guarantee you Dark Viper's looking at it going, why did I just make that move? I just threw my place to fight for it at Imola. That is a huge blunder in terms of this one, but with a couple of laps to go, Perya is starting to find purchase, and that gap now at 1.5 seconds, he's looking more and more safe by the moment.
And you can see how much the rain has lightened up. Another fastest lap for Dark Viper takes another second out of his previous purple lap time. He's going to get 3 points here, which moves him to 16. Perya's getting a whole load. F1 Alex will be getting a decent chunk as well. Dark Viper could technically beat F1 Alex, but I think he is just about running out of time. Dark Viper's still going to be within a shot of getting through, but, I mean, he's going to be in such a sticky position. And it's all self-inflicted as well. He was so comfortable out in front, but made the wrong strategy call. Down in 7th. I think he'll probably catch Ches. And if he catches Ches, he'll probably get within 3 seconds of Curb. So 5th place is what we're looking at potentially for Dark Viper here, because that gap is 1.5 seconds between Curbs and F1 Alex. If we could speak to him mid-race, I'd love to do it, because I want to know what he's feeling, but I think at this time when he's made a terrible strategy decision, us two are probably the last people he wants to be speaking to right now.
Probably, I would say that much. And with F1 Alex would be finishing ahead, if he can get to 5th, he will drop a little bit more in terms of placement, and that placement would be another point. So just need to bring it home. F1 Scott will feel like he's booked his place, and he'll be on a ticket towards a season of absolute happiness in F1 if he can get that to where he wants. But look at this, he's brought that gap now to roughly a second here. He's keeping Perya honest, and we've seen Perya crumble before. Oh, that's the wall for F1 Scott, and now he said he got to bring it home. Now he might have to nurse it.
I was about to say commentators rise, commentators curse. He's just put it on himself as he clouts the barrier going through turn number 17. Visually doesn't look like there's any damage, but we'll see how much time he leaks in this first sector in particular. And he's just got to bring it home at this stage. Scary, scary moment. Another fastest lap for Dark Viper. Just 1.7 seconds off the back of Ches. He might not even catch Curbs at this point, to be honest. He's 5.5 seconds back. He's going to lose some time getting past the Van Alstel of Chesnoid. I mean, this could be a real issue. We're hearing that Scott's tyres are in puncture territory. So everybody was saying that the tyre wear was massive. I mean, staying out was obviously the right decision. Look at what happened to Dark Viper. If somebody else came in, maybe everybody would have reacted. But the fact that it was just the race leader coming in, that's probably why everybody stayed out. So, well, I'm doing all right at the minute. You've got to make up all this time in about 4 laps. No, thank you, sir. I will stick just as I am. 9/10 the gap between Perrier and Scott, though, on the final lap. I think Perrier is going to bring this one home, fingers crossed, for a huge result to get him firmly back on track. And with F1 out slightly down the order, DRS is enabled. The rain is still coming down, but obviously dry tyres will be the tyre of choice at this stage. Dark Viper is close to within a second of Ches, within a second further of Curbs. Very, very close.
It is so close, but now Dark Viper desperately needs to find this pass. He will have some DRS to help him as he goes through, but this is all about now just showing that those tyres, he's got a way to go forward and he's got a way to find that overtake that he needs, and now he'll have an opportunity to make it happen here, and it'll be 1 extra position, but he won't get to Curbs in time as he looks to try and go through. That'll be 1 extra one then he'll put in the back pocket. But you have to say that with the way that Perrier's drived out there, he has been given a gift here by Dark Viper, and he will be 1 step closer to F1 Alex, and we've got a showdown here towards Imola. Punctures incoming for drivers, and that's a big one out there. Look at that as a slide over the line.
Curbs, what a moment. Ben's jumped in the chat. We've got it from our commentary team as well that he picked up a puncher. He's down in 7th now. It's all flipped on his head. The championship leader coming into this, mind the gap, because he's down in 7th with just a couple of points to his name. Dark Viper did get 5th place in the end with the fastest lap. Does recover some level of respectability. Curbs was looking comfortable before, certainly not comfortable now. And when we bring the standings up, this could be very, very tasty. But F1 Scott gets driver of the day. But I think with what happened previously in Qatar, have to give it, if we were giving driver of the day, of course, to Perrier. Brilliant performance, considering the circumstances. Smashes his way back into contention with F1 Scott and Gwatz finishing the podium. Gwatz will probably lead the championship here, will he? Or no, it might be F1 Scott. We'll have to wait and see what that is as the results and standings come in. That was a very exciting race. I know we've banged on about it. Dark Viper, he threw that away, and I think we can probably admit that now.
Yeah, and I think he'll realise that if he stayed up, then he would be in there, and it would be 6 fighting for 4. And right now, I'm going to say this here, it's now 5 fighting for 4. It's very tough for Dark Viper to find his way back from here. But Perrier with a big win over F1 Scott. Gwatz in 3rd, F1 Alex 4th. Then it's Dark Viper recovering to 5th. He could have found a little bit more there, though, if he stayed out. But he took the safe option, and safe didn't get it done. Chesnoid Gaming in 6th with Curbs in 7th. And Dave Gaming a lonely 8th in today's race at Miami, leading to just Imola remaining. And oh boy, we've got a championship.
And I have seen the standings, and it is very, very interesting. The only things that we can confirm at this stage, Dave Gaming, you can see it on screen. Dave Gaming is out. 9 points. He is 17 away from Perrier. He is going down into F2 or taking up a reserve role. Ches on 15 has got to win the race and have a lot of other drivers pick up no points. So I think realistically we can count Ches out of it as well. Dark Viper, with that major blunder, 18 points. He's 8 back, still very much in the game. And look at this. This is how close it is now. 9 points separating 1st down to 5th. Like we said previously, it is 5 fighting for 4. F1 Alex 25. 1 point behind Perrier, who got himself off the ropes. He was being beaten up on the ropes to try and use a boxing reference that I'm not going to be overly qualified to use, being a, bit skinny myself. But yeah, getting up into 4th place again, 26 points. Curbs is there on 30. Then it's Gwatz 31. Scott 34. 29 points was the magic number last season. 29 points, I can assure you, will not be enough to get you up this season.
It's going to be mighty close out there. It's between F1 Alex, Perrier, Curbs, and Gwatz. And it's down to, very simply, who's got what. And this Imola race is going to throw everybody through the loop, because they'll realise it's a track that's tough at overtaking. Tamburello's going to be a really important corner to get it done. But then you look around and say, right, 1 point, there are so many permutations. And I will say this, F1 Scott, I don't think even he's safe at the moment. It's that close of 5 into 4. One wrong move and the whole powder keg goes up in smoke.
With the way that it's looking at the moment, I'm going to get the trusty whiteboard out as we hand over to Gareth Allen, who I think is going to have a lot to cover in Clipbook Corner.
There is so much that I could cover. I'll select just a few. Just for those in the background, my Chrome tabs have exploded through that race. The amount of clips I have, I will certainly be posting them in the Discord afterwards. But I just want to point out, does it fail? No, it doesn't fail. It is going. Thank goodness for that. This is where Curb's got the puncture, just underneath the turnpike. If there's weird chat in there, so sorry if you heard any of that. But yeah, it was right at the end of this straight. And remember, he had that 4.3 second gap to Dark Viper when he got that puncture, and it did cost him a place in the end with that penalty on top. He also had a little bit of a moment earlier on in the race. We did catch this somewhat on the broadcast, but going through that beach section, just got his nose cut off at that very tricky Mickey Mouse hairpin chicane at the top here. It was Dave Gaming just moved across him, and he had a little no space, and it was this back wheel that actually touched the inside wall, so that actually lost him a few seconds as well. So maybe if he didn't lose that time, maybe he would have kept that position to Dark Viper. So everything adds up. And finally, this was a really strange moment from F1 Scott, who kind of just very slowly meandered into the wall at the fountain side view section of the track, just looking at chat, bumped off the wall. I think F1 Scott's very lucky. We saw him at the final corner, turn 17, the final proper corner, let's say. You'd also have another collision with the wall. So I think he may have got away with one today. And I want to just give you this tidbit of information going into the final race, which is, of course, at Imola. Imola is by far and away F1 Scott's least favourite and most difficult track. So he's going to find that super hard.
And especially if we have Hayden Gullis returning, of course. It's not quite been confirmed, but if we do have 9, that will mean someone does go to the donut shop and pick up 0 points. This has all come at a very interesting time. Scott, we saw it in the finale in Imola. Well, you might not have seen it, but me and Jake certainly saw it. He had a bit of a stinker. We'll go through the results from the previous Imola races in a moment. This is certainly not over. And if Hayden's coming in as well, if Scott comes in last and gets 0, I wouldn't be surprised if he does get bumped down.
It's going to take a fair bit. He's got 3 points over Gwatz. He's got 4 points over Curbs. He's got 8 points over Peya and 9 points over F1 Alex. That's not impossible to be on the outside looking in if Imola is your bogey track. It's my favourite circuit. There is no other greater racing track out there, in my view. If you had one lap and you only ever had one lap, I would take my one lap there. It is simply put a driver's circuit, and every corner challenges you. There's no, and then I just take this into that. No, you've got to focus for every corner, and we've got a championship where you're going to have to focus for every corner of every lap.
And we saw that rhythm in the lap you can get into in the real F1 qualifying with Verstappen and the 2 McLarens. Not that that is more important than the virtual world of Creator Series. This is certainly superior. I think everybody will agree with that. Previous results at Imola, been a bit of a mix. Obviously, it was the finale last week in F2 that, for some reason, people weren't quite able to see, and it turned into a radio show. But F1 Alex was P8 in the sprint and then won the feature race, so he's certainly got pedigree. Gwatz was the best driver of anyone in Imola last week. P1 in the sprint race, P2 in the feature race. Only lost the win to F1 Alex on the penultimate lap of the race. Dark Viper was very strong as well. 2nd place in the sprint, 5th place in the feature. Still very much in the running to get up into F1 despite having a mountain to climb. F1 Scott was 7th in the sprint, 10th in the feature race, and the feature race, he had a nightmare. He was lucky to even get 10th place, to be honest. He was getting caught up in instance. He did really well to get 10th, to be honest. F1 drivers, Curbs was last year in Season 4, got disqualified, and also in Season 4 was Hayden. Came home in 2nd place, but he isn't with us, so it will still be 8 drivers on the grid, so nobody will get 0 points unless they retire. Hopefully this is the formation lap, otherwise I've made a complete mess of this. Yes, they are going slightly slowly, so I'll carry on with my waffling here. Peya, P16, Dave Gaming, P9, and Ches, P15. Interesting.
I think now you've got to look at championship implications and realise what do those on the outside looking in need. Chesnoy Gaming needs a miracle. He can get 13 points for the fastest lap. That will put him up to 28 points. That will mean that the likes of Peya would have to be down in 7th, or actually 8th place. Has to have Peya 8th place and get everything because of the way how countback works. That would be the way he's got to go through, and then rely on F1 Alex going into 7th place and the like. That's going to be tough. Dark Viper, it's a little bit more manageable than that, but he's still going to need some big bad results from some drivers who have shown in F1 that it's good. But you look at F1 Alex, we're going to fully send this. Yeah, absolutely, you need to. You need to make sure you hold off Peya. If you can stay ahead of Peya, you've got half a chance, but you need a position ideally, unless you're 1 and 2. If it can be 1 and 2, F1 Alex will sneak through over Peya by 1 point.
And the fact that we've got a reverse championship order grid just adds that extra element of spice. F1 Scott is not confident at all, and he's starting from last place. Yes, he can keep out of trouble, but, and this is the biggest but, can he make overtakes to work his way through the field? We don't quite know where he would have to be because, like you said, there are so many permutations. Dave Gaming is just a spectator in all of this. He will be dropping down to F2. He cannot get up to the 26 points that Peya has currently got. Ches is pretty much out of it as well. He needs an absolute miracle, and if this happens, this should be the most... Well, if Ches goes up or stays up, this should be the most viral thing that anybody has ever seen. Get your predictions in chat, everybody. It's the last race of the evening. Imola, legendary track. Who do you think is filling those top 4 spaces?
3 drivers on the softs. Chesnoy Gaming, Dark Viper, and crucially Peya will start on the softs. Everybody else on the mediums, Curbs gets disqualified late, so he will have to put himself on and ready. 16 laps to decide who's in and who is out. Welcome to the finale of the playoffs, and we are underway. Dave Gaming with a pretty decent start as he goes through. Dark Viper has got himself a stormer here, but he might be boxed in slightly, trying to find a way through, as now there's a little bit of contact as they shuffle to Tamburello. For the first time, wide goes the Haas of Chesnoy Gaming. That will bring F1 Alex up into 3rd position as they scramble to the Gilles Villeneuve chicane.
And the top 2 have managed to put a little bit of a gap between themselves and F1 Alex. Ches losing places down into 5th and is in the gravel for good measure as well. Down into last place, you would imagine. Yes, falls all the way from 5th down to last after starting on the front row. Terrible start for Ches. Dave Gaming still leading, but Dark Viper, as they go up the hill, is going to be all over the back of that AlphaTauri because realistically, he's got to win this race.
He has to win this race, and he knows how crucial every point's going to be. Dark Viper needs help elsewhere. If he wants to get it sorted and up the hill, he'll try to the Curva Grassini. That's where he's going to make it happen. The former Variante Alta is where he's going to find that pass, and Dave Gaming is there. Look behind for Curbs, because F1 Scott's over the back, and so too is Guat, trying to find a way through down the hill towards Ravazza. No dice, they'll have to wait for DRS, which will come along at the 3rd lap of this race. But crucially, there is a gap between front 4 and back 4.
They've lost a lot of time, and it's Curbs, F1 Scott and Guat's top 3 in the championship in a little bit of trouble early on. Fastest lap for Dark Viper over the line, obviously, because he was first across the line. Dave Gaming is going to potentially challenge on the run down into turn 1. Little jink over to the left-hand side, has a look, but thinks better of it. F1 Scott gets past Curbs. They're debating 5th and 6th. Bit of contact clattering over the sausage. Curbs. Here goes Scott, sorry. Here comes Guat's trying to send it around the outside. Can't quite do it. Ches nipping at the heels of the McLaren as well. Scott already getting into a bit of trouble. He's going to be having some flashbacks from last week in Imola, I have to say, after that little tete-a-tete between himself and Curbs.
Yeah, and now you get that sense that Imola's going to be this track where you're going to have to be very switched on. Dave Gaming is not giving this one up. He's going to go out in a blaze of glory here, and he will challenge Dark Viper, who of course is on the softs, absolutely battering the Curbs at Acqua Minerale, and now looking to try and really break away. If they can break a second here from F1 Alex, there will be smiles here. But you've got F1 Alex and Peya looking at each other and realizing that one of them is in and currently one of them is out, and they don't want it to be either of them. That could get quite spicy.
Yeah, but look at the gap. It's over 2 seconds now between Peya and Curbs. F1 Alex struggling to hold on to the coattails of the duo in front as it's now 0.8 of a second. Dark Viper fastest lap again. Peya's going to use the slipstream. No DRS, but probably a little bit of battery to maybe challenge the Mercedes on the run down into turn 2. Not turn number 1, that's that little kink as we go past the pit straight. Not close enough. Further back 2.7 seconds. They're dropping back by the minute. Curbs, Gwat's F1 Scott could be in real trouble here.
They absolutely could. And Curbs on the radio, it was a little bit naughty of him, apparently, the way he's dealt with Gwat's and F1 Scott and co. But now he's got to settle down into his rhythm and decide that he can have that throw further forward. Now, he finds himself in that 5th place. That's going to give him 4 championship points. And as we take a little look at the replay here off of the start, this was how aggressive everything seemed to be over at Tamburello. Look at the squeeze that's going in. Where do you find an angle of attack? And there you see it off of the exit. That's beautifully done. That's how Peya got up into 4th position. But when you've got Peya in 4th, he's going to be scoring 6 championship points. So he's only going to gain 2 on Curbs. So Curbs is safe at the moment in 5th place. F1 Alex will only gain, in 3rd position, he'll gain 8. So he'll gain 4 on Peya, which will put him up to 29. So at the moment, it's Peya versus F1 Alex. Doesn't matter unless they catch Dave Gaming and pass.
Yeah, and Gwat's is just getting past Curbs for the measure as well, round the outside into 5th place, is in a little bit of trouble. Curbs is going to be sweating slightly here down in 6th place, and with a big margin for himself and the group that he's in to make up. Ches has been detached a little bit from the back of the pack. Gwat's up into 5th ahead of Curbs. F1 Scott struggling very wide was Gwat's through that corner there. The Variante Villeneuve chicane as Ches picks up a penalty. I mean, realistically, Ches is done for here. Curbs trying to get a good exit out of Tosa, but not quite close enough up the hill towards the Piratella to maybe make a move and get 5th place back.
Well, this is key here because 6th place is Curbs has got the tiebreaker over F1 Alex. They'll be tied on points as it stands. If F1 Scott can find a way through, Curbs is on the outside looking in.
So many permutations, and we're only on lap number 4, and it's going to continue to get more and more exciting as the back 4 continue to get more and more detached from the front 4. Only 3 seconds now. Gwat's looking a little bit shaky on this track. Interesting analysis there from F1 Scott. You'd think he was clip but corner talking about how the other drivers are performing. Out in front, still 6/10 of a second between Dark Viper and Dave Gaming. F1 Alex and Peya going to continue to debate 3rd and 4th as they try and bolt from this group behind. They can't squabble these guys. This is a potentially critical move. Dave Gaming up the inside into turn number 2. The Ferrari in front of their home fan gets a little bit wobbly, as does the AlphaTauri at his home track. F1 Alex going to try and swing it around the outside to get 2nd place. Cuts across to the inside to confirm it. Is he having a look at the inside of the Ferrari? He's not satisfied with just 2nd place as they come up towards Tosa corner. Is there enough space? Jinking over. No room for Peya as he has to stay in 4th place for the time being. A lot of little jinks around for the drivers there, but it's F1 Alex very opportunistic to get up into 2nd place. Dave Gaming, he was staring at first, now drops down to 3rd.
And F1 Alex now secures his safety. He'll jump the points over the top of Peya. So now it's Peya who has to look at making the pass on Dave Gaming if he wants to try and jump through, because he will know that Curbs is not in the position he needs to be. He's now back there in 5th. So this is a scramble. You've got to make the pass on Dave Gaming to get your safety. And the more that these two start scoring points, the more you got to look around at Curbs and say, how safe are you? The more you got to look around at F1 Scott and say, how safe are you? Down there in 7th place. So now you're really starting to scramble about here. I think F1 Scott's got more security here, but now Dave Gaming, he's going to say, you know what? I didn't like that last lap. I'm going to have my own. And guess what? No DRS. What a move! To the inside, Dave Gaming goes 3rd to 1st, and Alex goes around the outside of Dark Viper. What a pass!
Millimetre perfect, and he absolutely had to be, otherwise that was going to be an aeroplane crash going down into the Tamburello chicane. Dave Gaming gets a little bit squirmy going through Vilna, but is in the lead of the race. These guys, I think, may have missed a trick a little bit from fighting so hard as F1 Scott gets past Gwat's, who's dropped down from 5th into 7th. This could be Gwat's falling out of the top 4, in fact, if he stays in 7th place at the time being, because Curbs 5th, F1 Scott 6th. That's not looking good for Gwat's, I have to say. But yeah, missed a trick, this leading 4. They were so comfortable, 3.5 seconds the gap. Curbs is now only 2 seconds back. He's dropped Scott a little bit. You would imagine the Ferrari going wide there as Dark Viper could be under pressure from Peya on the run up to the chicane of Grassini. But yeah, F1 Scott is going to catch back up to the Williams. We could have the whole pack converging on each other in a few laps' time.
We absolutely couldn't remember. Pit stops will be happening soon too, and those on the softs have to take the mediums at some point. So someone like Dart Viper and Peya, for example, are going to be two drivers you'd expect will be earlier into the pits than Dave Gaming and F1 Alex. Any takers right? No, will stay as they go. I think lap 7 of 16 is probably the ideal place to get off of those soft tyres.
Yeah, you have to think that they are going to be thinking about pit stop soon. Is this F1 Alex thinking about the lead of the race around the outside? Not quite. You can see the ERS light still flashing at the back of the car as Scott's managed to get past Curbs. As Curbs made a big mistake there. The gap's back out to 3 seconds. What are they doing battling so hard? They're throwing away a golden opportunity to get themselves in F1 or remain in Formula 1 for the new game in a couple of weeks' time. Still Dave Gaming in the lead ahead of F1 Alex, and we have a replay here. What is this? This is Peya and F1 Alex squabbling. I think this could be very tasty. No, it's not. It's F1 Scott going up the inside of Gwatz going into the Villeneuve chicane. Lovely stuff there from the Papaya McLaren up into 6th place. That was. He's now up into 5th ahead of Curbs.
Yep, so that's going to be big for F1 Scott. That will pretty much secure his safety there with those passes that he's managed to find. So he'll be quite happy, but look at this over the top. Dave
Alex
Gaming,
mistake.
absolutely there. And now running wide goes F1 Alex. Dart Viper sniping away down the inside. No room here towards the Ravazzas for F1 Alex, who says, come on, Viper, help me out. He's doing anything but for you, bud.
Yeah, but I think Alex was just way too greedy there, trying to go around the outside. Into the pits dives the Aston Martin of Peya. That was late, but he is the first to blink and put on a new set of boots. Anyone else behind coming in? I think F1 Scott is diving in as well, as is Gwatz. So the two guys at the back electing to come in for new tyres. They're going to try and make this undercut work, and we'll see how powerful it is. F1 Alex under pressure still from Dart Viper, but he gets past him through Tamburello chicane. The Ferrari's going to fight it back, though. Is he going to send it up the inside into the Villeneuve chicane? No, that would have been ludicrous from the Ferrari trying to impress his home fans, but stays in 3rd place for the time being.
Look, 4th's not going to be good enough here for Peya at this moment in time. You've got to keep an eye out there. If Curbs, at that point, before anyone came in, was 6th place and is trying to get what he can out of it, 6th for Curbs would just about do it by 1 point. What will be interesting is the count back between Curbs and Peya, and Curbs has it at the moment by 2 wins to 1. So that's going to be something to keep in mind when they settle themselves out from the stops and as they get themselves ready. Halfway at the end of this lap, Dave Gaming, hats off. He is the spanner in the works. Did he give Hayden his account or something?
Well, it's very interesting. He's found the pace finally. Gwatz, I think, has made a mistake somewhere. He's 3.5 seconds back. I can't quite repeat what he says on there because this is a family show, but I think you can all work out what he's saying. Into the pits dives the race leader. F1 Alex is staying out, going for the alternate strategy. Dart Viper continues on as well. Interestingly, on those soft compound tyres, Curbs joining the AlphaTauri in the pits. And now we're going to see how powerful this undercut is.
Well, the soft tyres are going to be big, and if Peya's got this right, he might have just secured his safety. This is all about getting that track position. Might be slightly held up by Curbs diving in. That was close in terms of the exit, and it is a long pit lane here at Imola, and you're waiting for that line right down at the end. There he comes.
Oh, I think we've lost you at the worst possible time.
So can...
Oh, we're struggling a bit. I'm going to have to jump in. Peya is ahead of Dave Gaming. The undercut working. The soft tyres, though, on the AlphaTauri car. He's going to chase after that Aston Martin.
He is going to chase, and that's going to be big. Peya is on the mediums, and that's going to be the one thing that might count against him here in the final stages of the playoffs, that he is on the worst tyre, and he will have Dave Gaming hunting him down, hand over fist. Crucially, though, Peya in 3rd position right now will give him an extra 2 championship points, and it's Curbs right now that needs to be alert because he'll need an extra place now to be safe.
Yeah, well, into the pits dives F1 Alex, into the pits dives Dark Viper, and we'll see where they come out. Peya could be in the lead of this race, which would be a complete switcheroo from what we saw earlier on, because he was 4th before the pit stops were made, and that undercut strategy seems to work out absolutely beautifully. The only problem is he's going to have to defend from all of these drivers on the soft compound tyre. Curbs with time to make up. Gwatz with time to make up as well. F1 Scott looking pretty handy in 5th place at the moment, just a second and a half off the back of this duo, and now the Mercedes and Ferrari are going to be going down this incredibly long and slow pit lane. There they are. They're going to be miles behind this group.
And wow, that does not play ball there. And you really get the sense that that was tough. Out of the race goes Chesnoy Gaming. He'll retire it in the pit. So that's one less thing to worry about for those like Curbs and Dark Viper, saying his season's done. He'll resign his fate over to F2 next season. But up the hill, it's Peya versus Dave Gaming. But a couple of seconds. F1 Scott has somehow leapfrogged everybody up to third.
But he has got a mammoth stint on these soft compound tyres. Got the oldest tyres of everyone, bar Gwatz at the back, who could be staring down the barrel of not getting into the playoffs, of not getting into the top four, despite occupying it from round number 2. Dave Gaming ever so close to the back of Peya there, but isn't going to make a move into the chicane, but probably will using the DRS on the run down into the Tamburello chicane. Maybe he's going to be a bit impatient and try and send it up the inside into Ravazza, although I wouldn't recommend that AlphaTauri driver, and does stay behind for now. This is the performance that we were missing from Dave Gaming. We know it was there. He wasn't quite able to execute it, getting caught up in too many incidents, but I think he's going to fly past. Doesn't even need the DRS as he uses the slipstream. Fastest lap to boot as well. Extra point, not going to get him into F1 next season, but he does take the lead of the race, and he is going to be the ultimate disturber for all of the drivers that are going to be very much sweating. There's a critical overtake for 4th place. Curbs getting past F1 Alex. That could prove crucial as Curbs trying to hold on to his position in F1. The lights still blink at the back of the Mercedes car. Feels like F1 Alex hasn't had ERS for this entire race.
F1 Alex right now is on the outside looking in, and there is not much he can do about it. Knowing that he's got to get ahead of Peya, who leads this field outright, knowing that he's got to put some gap between himself and Curbs has just got ahead. F1 Alex, who had proven with 2nd place overall in the F2 season for Season 6, he'll realise now as he wakes up that that's not going to count for much. He needed to get something done in the playoffs, and he hasn't at this moment. He's going to need a lot of help to come through, and there's 3 more seconds to add on top. This is going from bad to worse to downright diabolical.
And he's got Dark Viper riding his tail as well as I throw out into the barrier. Oh no, for the second time this stream. Curbs is probably going to get swallowed up here, but he doesn't have to worry too much because of the penalty that Alex has just picked up, and that could be the straw that breaks the camel's back for the Mercedes driver. Still got no ERS, not recharging at all. He's going to fly past the Williams. This could be a little bit spicy with a Ferrari swinging around the outside as well of the kink of turn number 1. 2 for the price of 1 for Dark Viper up into 4th place as he continues to charge forward to try and catch the leaders in the closing stages. Curbs down into 6th. Gwatz has been detached from the back of the pack. I think we can safely say that the Alfa Romeo driver could be in a spot of bother here, but it's going to be Curbs versus F1 Alex versus F1 Scott, you would imagine, with Peya in 2nd place.
Yep, so at the moment, Peya doing what he needs to right now in P2. That's enough. Curbs, that's enough. Gwatz is the only driver F1 Alex is in front of right now. And for F1 Alex, he's got to get 6 points, or in fact, he's got to really get 7. That's going to be the key. So 3 seconds plus 7 points on 7th place. Well, how's 2 points? If you need 7 points, you need to get up to 3rd if you're F1 Alex, and that's going to be tough. Absolutely sensational. Dark Viper there. That is a worldie of a pass, but he'll still be stuck in F2 as things stands, as F1 Alex finds himself on the outside unless he can find a way to scramble up to F1 Scott.
It's very much out of Gwatz's hands down in 7th place. Scott has been reeled in on so quickly by this group of cars. He's going to be a sitting duck down the straight. Scott's race could be tumbling as he falls down to 4th. Going to be 5th as the Mercedes of F1 Alex flies past as well. I don't think Curbs is close enough with the DRS to get up ahead of the McLaren. But that is Dark Viper continuing his assault on the leaders. He's got to get to the lead of the race, you would imagine. 18 points. If he comes 2nd with 10, 28 is not going to be enough. Has to get to 30 points if he's going to challenge for the playoff or the promotion spots.
F1 Alex not only needs to get to 3rd place, but he's got to get to 3rd place and gain 3 seconds. That's going to be big. We're going to take a look at live points in a moment here as they stand. And at the moment, It's F1 Alex out by 2, but Curbs and Gwatz are on the same point. It will be Curbs ahead of Gwatz on countback. So as you look at it right now, Curbs will have the countback though on Gwatz. So keep that in mind as they go through. Gwatz is the one at danger if F1 Alex can jump to 3rd and gain 3 seconds.
And we've still got to be careful of Dark Viper as well, because if he pushes Persia down and gets up to 30 points. That can make things very interesting as well. F1 Alex has got to find some speed from somewhere, but I think he could be the driver that misses out. So unfortunately for the F2 vice champion, F1 Scott could be under pressure from curbs as Dark Viper sets the fastest lap of the race. He's still going for it. He believes that he can get into F1 after all the blunders that he's made this race or this playoff season so far. He still believes. Curbs, is he making a move on the McLaren of F1 Scott? No, he's not. Stays in 6th place for the time being. Scott could be in a little bit of danger if he loses that place to Curbs, I have to say.
Well, that's going to give him an extra point. That'll jump him up to 27 now for Dark Viper. He gets the move on Peya. That'll put him up to 29 points, but he'll need to get to 31 if he's got a hope of going forward, and he'll realise that F1 Scott is just shadowing F1 Alex here. So F1 Alex is 3 seconds, with Curb shadowing as well. It might be a case that he'll jump F1 Alex, but where does he jump Peya? Where does he jump Curbs? Where does he jump Gwatz? He's not got enough to do that right now.
And F1 Scott is losing time hand over fist. It's nearly 2 seconds between himself and F1 Alex. And if Curbs can get past Cleany here, this could be very, very detrimental for Scott's chances of getting up into F1. Gwatz is going to box for the fastest lap. That is a very smart idea, I have to say. He's not going to catch the rest of the pack. He can get 1 extra point. That would just be 1 point closer to safety for the Alfa Romeo driver. This is a critical pass for the championship as well. Dark Viper trying his best to get up into F1. He's made so many mistakes. He threw away a race victory last time out in Miami, but he's going to fly past the Aston Martin with absolutely no contest from Peya, who cannot do anything about the Scuderia Ferrari car, flying up into 2nd place. And now he's got 2 laps to catch 2.3 seconds to Dave Gaming if he wants any shot of getting into F1.
Well, he's going to need some help, and a lot of help at that, and it will be in the form of F1 Alex and the penalty that he's got, which will drop him down to 5th position right now, and he will need help with the fact that Gwatz is there, but Gwatz will be going for that fastest lap bonus point, and I think Gwatz is just going to have enough safety. If it's 12 points for Dark Viper, he'll go on to 30, and he would need Peya to run into troubles, and Peya is in 3rd place. So I think Dark Viper, for all of the effort that he's throwing in, it's just not aligning for him. It's not his time. But with Dave Gaming starting to keep himself safe, Viper is throwing what he can. He'll be close, but at the moment, it's no cigar.
This is a hugely commendable effort. He's taken 1 second out of him on this lap. Can he get into DRS range as the light is flashing at the back of the AlphaTauri car? He's pushing for his life. Has he got the DRS? He's within 1 second at the moment. No ERS left for him. We can't quite see. I don't think he's got the DRS flap open. No, he's not. He's losing time on the straight. F1 Scott could be in the spot of bother down in 6th. He's outside 3 seconds of F1 X. He's clinging on by his fingernails to his spot in the top 4. I think he's just about going to hold on because Curbs is also struggling to keep up with the Mercedes as well. Dark Viper is running out of opportunities. He's got half a lap to get past the AlphaTauri on a track where overtaking is notoriously difficult.
The fact that F1 Scott is ahead of Gwatz right now means F1 Scott is safe. Curbs right now is safe. You've got Peya, who is safe, and Gwatz at the moment, realising that F1 Alex has got 3 seconds worth of penalty, is going to be dropping back, is going to realise that F1 Alex needs 3rd, and when he's in 7th, he's safe. Dark Viper is going to go for the race victory here, knowing that he's got to chase Dave Gaming down, knowing that he's got to find a move. Curva Grassini, it might just have to be Ravazza to get it done on the final corners here of the playoffs, and behind that is F1 Alex and Peya, and there might be fireworks yet with a last sting in the tail between those two. No chance for Dark Viper for the first Ravazza, a dive for the second Ravazza's not there, and still you think it's Dave Gaming who will take the victory. Dark Viper will not find his way through and over the line. F1 Alex will not be able to get what he wants. Curbs will get his safety. It's F1 Alex out and everybody else in. Your 4 in surely will be F1 Scott, Gwatz, Curbs and Peya.
What a grandstand finish. I thought Dark Viper into the final couple of corners of Ravazza was going to smash through the doors of the last chance to saloon to try and get up into the lead of the race. Very sensible there, though. Didn't want to send it. Fair play to Dark Viper. He put on quite the show for all of us. A brilliant drive. Gwatz is going to come over the line to get the fastest lap to put even more distance between himself and what is going to be 5th place F1 Alex. That was such an intense finale, so exciting to watch. We know our 4 that are going up. We know the 4 that'll be in F2 next season. And it was a brilliant race. Dark Viper was deserved driver of the day, you have to say. Brilliant performance. He was 6th when he came out of his pit stop. I think with 5 or 6 laps to go, ended up 0.3 of a second off the back of Dave Gaming, who finishes nicely, manages to pick up a victory. It's been disappointing for Dave, but he does finish on a high. And if he is in F2 next season, you would fancy him challenging for those playoffs. Same goes for Chesnoid as well. Just so unlucky. Wasn't able to repeat the heroics from last season. But yeah, Ches will be coming back stronger, you would imagine, as well.
I think he will. I think that we're sat with a beautiful, beautiful championship run that went through. That, for a playoffs, was all about who's got what, and every single moment would have been psychoanalyzed by everyone as they went through. That was a beautiful showcase, but it's one driver who's going to be on the wrong side of it, and that will be F1 Alex here today, who will feel like he had a lot in the opening stage as he went through, but his race 2, his race 3 was great. Struggles in race 1, struggles in race 5. Race 4 was decent, but not decent enough. And crucially, you've got to have at least 3 good races if you want to go up. And each of the top 4 had at least 3 great races.
At least Dave Gaming, as he's saying in the chat, good spirits from Dave, took the sandbags off eventually and comes through to take a brilliant lights to flag victory. Excellently done, but he will finish outside the top 4. And we're going to get the final standings. For people that haven't seen it on the dock, F1 Scott does finish top, as for some reason, I mean, everything's glowing on me somehow. Curbs finishes in second, stays up, manages to get through the playoffs for the second season in a row. Gwatz gets up. He was the form driver coming into the playoffs and certainly delivered despite having a stinker at Imola. He does come home in third, level with Perrier on 34. F1 Alex in the end with that penalty was 5 points shy. Dark Viper put on quite the show but ends on 28, 6 points away. Dave Gaming and Ches were pretty much out of the running from the start of Imola, and we have to give a huge round of applause to Hayden Gullis for his excellent effort with those 0 points on the board there.
A simply fantastic showcase of great driving by Hayden Gullis. He had to drive in third person of all things as well, which is very difficult because, you know, you're so used to driving first person. He wouldn't have been able to see when's the right time to turn. He wouldn't have been able to see how much throttle he's got, how much brake he's got, how fast he's going. A tough showcase, but a brilliant nil point of all nil points.
Absolutely, and we're going to get some drivers in to get their thoughts as well. Gareth Allen in Clipbook Corner for the final time this season. Is there anybody or anything that you want to take us through?
Yeah, you can see by the fact I haven't brought a screen up, I've got 0 clips to go through right now. But what a thrilling finale that was. So tactically different, the strategies, and divergent for the drivers in what they decided to do. And just a thrilling end to the whole of F1 23. I'm sure we'll recap that afterward. Our thoughts and feelings of the playoffs totally, but I think we should absolutely jump in some now. So, without further ado, let's bring in F1 Scott. By yourself, Tom.
I feel bad.
Hello, Scott. Sorry that we've dragged you in mid-sentence, but we have to speak to you because I don't know what your expectations were like going into this. The form at the end of the F2 season wasn't great, but you have come through and you've not just gone up to F1. You've finished top of the playoff standings.
I'm actually a bit speechless at how the last 2.5 hours have went. I would like to thank other drivers' mistakes for making this possible, and I'm genuinely shocked. I am so shocked. I feel like the average person that comes into my chat would not have expected this to happen, and here we are. And please tell me you didn't see my mistake in Qatar. Did you see my pit stop mistake?
No, we didn't. We did see that you lost about 3 seconds, though. So, yeah, we saw that you dropped back, but if you had to pick a standout moment, because the first 3 races, you weren't necessarily spectacular, but you were so consistent, kept out of trouble, picked up 3 podiums, and, you know, you've got your just desserts.
Yeah, fighting with curbs that last race where it was all, I think we actually seen ourselves in first place, so we were like, yeah, just get out. To be honest, there was quite a few moments, but my head's a bit fried. I can't even think back to Portugal F2. That feels like a different day. Like, I said to everyone, we just need to remain consistent, have no skill issues, aka spinning out on my own, and don't pick up penalties. So the highlight for me is being able to do a 25% Qatar race without getting a 3-second penalty. Yes!
Before I do hand you over to Jake, I've got to talk to you about your reaction when you found out Imola was the finale. What was the reaction there? Try and keep it as PG as possible as well, please.
Look, there's like 3 tracks in this game that just don't agree with me, and one of them is Imola. I watched it today for the first time since becoming an F1 fan, and loved watching it, but driving it, I feel like they are mean. Whoever made the track is mean, especially in terms of track limits and the gravel and all that kind of stuff. So, like, thankfully, I'd done 100% Imola race last night, so I was a little bit prepared, but, like, yeah, I didn't enjoy that. It was the finale to the F2 season where I nearly threw everything away because I'm so bad at it. Doesn't matter what car it is, me and Imola, we don't get on. But, hey, we're here, right?
We absolutely are. A championship for you in terms of the playoff run. You know, you're looking at this in terms of how do you want to go about this season? How do you want to go and challenge the playoffs? You are the only driver inside the top 4 who did not have a race win in the back pocket. I think it's something to say that you can get into the playoffs. It's something else entirely to say you can win the playoffs without getting a victory overall. How important has your training regimen been to get through from section 1 to 2, 3, 4, and 5 just by having a level of consistency over the course of the races?
Yeah, well, I knew I probably wasn't going to win a race. I didn't win a race in the F2 season. I just seem to always be second best on the day if I'm doing well. And I was like, just use that for my advantage. And yeah, I practiced. I kind of do events with my stream throughout the week. And one of the things we've done is we've done a mock event. We chose random tracks. We got a couple of them right, but we just chose random tracks and we tried to go between the F1 and F2 cars because it's very, very rough. And I think that worked out. We kept everything quite nice and calm in the first lap of the F1 races 3 and 5, because I was very concerned that you just, when you've been driving an F2 car, you forget how easily an F1 car turns, and it's very easy to just go straight off and completely miss your turn.
And the one thing I will ask now, because you can officially call yourself an F1 driver for next season, what's the one thing that you are looking forward to above anything else about now becoming an F1 driver and tackling the next season?
I'm looking forward to just being with all the guys and starting this next season off with a new game as well. And this is like the ends of my character journey, where I started from the broadcast of the F2 sides with TK. I remember we had our first sort of broadcast together there when Gareth got me into the Creator Series. Then we sort of moved our way up into the F1 broadcast through the clip book, and now, sort of co-commentating. We decided to become the driver in the F2 because we were like, why not? It looked fun. We've now got our way up to the F1 driver part. I'm a little bit sad that I won't be part of the broadcast team come next season, because they're so cool, and it's a wonderful group. But you know what? Yeah, okay, it's time for me to get commentated on for a season. Bring it.
Absolutely. Thank you for talking to us. It's been a pleasure as always, Scott. The journey that you spoke about is now complete, and we look forward to seeing what you can do on F1 24 in the F1 series. Thank you very much for talking to us, and yeah, enjoy the rest of your evening, because you very much should.
Thank you so much, guys. Take care. Well done.
You too. Well, that was a fun one. Scott's always a laugh to talk to. Thank you as well for Perry for the raid. Very much appreciated. Welcome in, everybody. We're just doing our interviews at the moment, and I think we're now going to bring Curbs in.
Oh,
hello, Curbs. Yeah,
hello.
A little bit of a shock to the system. Got to talk
just
to you.
A little bit.
Talk to you about the start of the season. We'll get the positives done straight away. 2 wins in the first 3 races. Did that come out of nowhere? How confident were you feeling coming into the playoffs?
Not very, to be fair. Looking at the drivers that are in there, everyone, I was like, damn, there's going to be some good pace amongst everyone in this one today. Last time was hard enough, but this time was even more sort of squeaky bum time. Do you know what I mean? So nervy.
Well, I think squeaky bum time is probably the best word to use after what we saw at Imola. How worried were you? Because you did have a little bit of a margin of safety at the flag. Was there ever a point where you thought, I've messed this up, I've thrown it away?
A little bit, but in the back of my head, I was like, everyone's going to be scrapping, and people might do something silly to try and get that extra position for the points. So I was like, okay, if I keep my battery as positive as possible, try and keep it as clean as possible, then it'll come back to me. Thankfully, it did. And the overcut worked on GWATs as well, which was lucky for me. That gave me a really comfortable gap. I knew if I was going to finish ahead of him, I would have been fine. So, trying to keep calm. However, the heart rate in that race, not so much. That was horrendous to go through.
how much do you think the experience of being in the playoffs last season, managing to successfully negotiate them last season, helped you against the likes of, someone like Dave Gaming coming down for the first time?
Oh, massively so. So if you're going into it, it's such a daunting prospect of like, oh, damn, I'm going to lose my seat. I'm going to lose my teammate. I'm going to lose Jake. But after last time, it's like there was a little bit of confidence because it's like, okay, I can match with the best that are in this playoff system and just have to go at it, to be fair. That was my thinking.
It was dominant for you from an F1 standpoint, and that gave you the platform to go through a win in race 1, a win in race 3. For you, in terms of having that pace and mastering your element, which you'd been practicing through and you've been racing through your F1 season, pulling everything together, how important was it to have that fundamental basis on just being surrounded and ingratiated with the F1 car over the course of the F1 season?
Well, it was needed in the end because my pace in F2 was absolutely below average, if I do say so myself. So a little bit of luck, but it paid off in the end, especially for the strategy calls that we went for as well, going for the alternate on all 3 races. But first 2 went very well for us, thankfully.
And for you, what's the difference going to be when you jump into that next season that's going to give you that freedom and opportunity to avoid the playoffs next time round?
Well, hopefully I avoid getting really unlucky with collisions, mate. I've been very, very unlucky in this current F1 season, where it's like I disconnected from my internet in Brazil. There was a collision in Silverstone, which I couldn't really help. Collision in Singapore, which obviously didn't help my race. So it's I hope that like the unlucky side has gone and we can sort of kick on from here and push forward for maybe a constructors next time round with Jake and Williams. So
he'll be delighted to hear about that. Very quickly before he sends you on your way, the puncture at Miami, we didn't catch it live. What was that about? What was your reaction to that? And you basically had to crawl over the line, Lewis Hamilton 2020 Silverstone style.
That was it literally just ticked over 75% as well. So I was like, nah, surely not. Going down then the back straight, I then lose 2 positions, which if I didn't lose those, that would have been more than enough points to secure the seat for next season. So it ended up almost costing me massively. So thanks for that one, car. That was really not nice to go through.
Well, congratulations, though. It didn't mean anything in the end, of course, but it was a nice bit of light entertainment for us to stick our teeth into. So we're going to have to call you the playoff expert, though. 2 for 2 getting through the playoffs. And we look forward to seeing you in F1 once again next season. And thank you very much for talking to us again.
Pleasure. Thank you. Thank you both.
Thank you very much. So, spoken to Curbs, I think now, should we bring in Gwatz? So I think this will be a very, very fun interview to conduct.
Going in, yes. Hi, guys.
Hello, Gwatz. Now, we spoke after Imola, and I don't think you necessarily gave off the impression that you were all that confident coming into the playoffs. And after a slightly sticky first round in Suzuka, you left yourself with quite a lot to do, but you absolutely smashed it in the next 3 races.
Yes, Tom, we've done it, mate. I know you were rooting for me, bro. Come on. No, sorry. Yeah, the Japan, I thought we were going to be slow there anyway. But I didn't realize it was going to be that bad. Like, I don't want to put excuses on everything, but I didn't have the most time in the world to practice. Yeah, Japan was very bad. That was a bit of a reality check. Honestly, I was almost if it was back-to-back F1 races, I probably would have. I think I would have not got through because I would have just like mentally checked out. It was that bad. And then Imola, yeah, I don't know what happened there as well, but we still did it. Had to pit for fastest lap. That's how bad it got. But we didn't need it anyway, luckily. But yeah, F2, we did all right in the F2. I think that's what carried us, similar to last playoffs as well with Hayden and Matty. But yeah.
Well, I mean, you were the form horse coming into it. Out of everyone in F2 and everyone in F1, you were the driver in the best form. I mean, if you take your last 3 races in F2, you would have been challenging for the championship if you continue that for the whole season. How much confidence did that give you? Because I'm guessing at the start of the season, playoffs, were they your ambition? Did you think you could get into the playoffs? Because now you're in F1 for the next game. That's quite the rise.
Yeah, I think we were aiming for playoffs, but obviously I think I said it last week. I was still on the Logitech back then, so it was in the back of my mind, but it was I think if I was still on the same rig and all that stuff for the whole season, I probably wouldn't have done it. But yeah, I think because obviously, again, I am just a career mode YouTuber. So I never really had any confidence in the car, but just all the F2 practice, just like, have a shit F1 race, but I know I can do the job in F2. I know I can win the race. So the F2 confidence definitely helped a lot.
And I have to say, with your criticism of the goated Logitech G29 there, myself and Gareth very much firm believers that is the wheel for all the experts.
G29 slaps, unbelievable wheel.
I will say, all right, I gained like 80% of my sub count just by making videos on the G29. So don't let anyone tell you that it's a bad wheel, all right? Okay, it's a goated wheel. It carried me. It really did carry me.
Well, now here's where I start asking the questions. For you, coming out of Suzuka, heading into the F2 races, we've seen how important that was for you in terms of getting through. In terms of that mental reset, what did you go through to run into the phone booth as Clark Kent and walk out as Superman?
I think the main thing, like I said, was knowing it was going to F2. And obviously, it kind of got to the point where, well, basically, I kind of knew Hayden wasn't coming back, so I knew we'd be on pole. So it kind of got, at the end of Japan, we were kind of like, okay, there's no point pushing, like crashing and embarrassing myself. Let's just take the P1 and then just do like a full reset. I think because we've been here for so long, like 3 hours, it feels like Japan is like a whole different day, mate. Like I just completely put it behind me. I'm not sure how I did, because I think, again, a few months ago, that probably would have ruined the whole thing, honestly. So it was just, I think knowing I would start on pole was the main thing that kind of helped me clutch up a little bit.
And so now you look forward, in terms of where you were towards the end of that, there was a massive scramble. Nobody truly had the picture of who's got this and who's got that and who's looking left, right, up and down. For you, getting that fast slap at the end, was that the security blanket that basically secured you everything you wanted?
Oh, yeah, definitely, yeah. I think we only got it, I don't know if, I felt like, if anyone, I felt like Tom would have caught this. We got it by 800th or 8,000th. I don't know which one. You know what I mean? It was very, very slim. Yeah, I think I don't know what my engineer got in his GCSEs, but I had him doing mental maths every single lap, bro. I'm not gonna lie. So we were a bit worried at the end. Yeah, luckily we didn't need it, but yeah, my pace was so bad. We weren't gonna catch. So yeah, it definitely racked me a little bit.
Well, I mean, myself and Jake, personally, very much part of the Gwatz fan club for the last 5 races. And you've done excellently well to get up into F1. And yeah, we look forward to seeing how you manage to make that leap onto the new game. We wish you the best of luck.
Well, thank you, guys. It's been an honor to talk to you. Thank you so much. Guys, you did a great job. Tom, I love you, mate. Thank you, guys.
Love you too, bro.
All right, thank you, mate. Thank you. Goodbye, guys. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, buddy. Told you that would be a fun one.
I don't know. You were loved and me and Gareth weren't.
You need to get firmly into the Gwatz fan club. You need to get the cap, you need to get the scarf and everything. Get yourself involved.
He called a G29 goated, so for me, that's extension of myself. So, he, I feel loved. Just you, Jake, on your own.
Oh. The greatest wheel out there.
Hayden, next year.
Shall we bring Hayden Gullis in then, yeah? Let's see what Hayden has to say after his outstanding performance. I'm sure he'll be delighted with how he did. Hayden, you are absolutely fantastic today. I have to say, very well done on your efforts of picking up a huge sum of 0 points. Just take us through everything that went on today.
Huge. I wanna thank all of my fans out there. Couldn't have done it without them. To go into the playoffs and to win every single race. I don't think that's ever been achieved. So yeah, I'm just so proud at the moment. It's incredible.
TK saying Hayden gets the reward for the most consistent driver. I'd agree with that. You took many trips to the donut shop there with your zeros across the board. Do you want to talk us through Suzuka, though? Because that's probably the best way to start. That was very funny from our perspective, I have to say. Probably slightly frustrating for you, though.
Yeah, I loaded in. I've got a new PC. Everything was in ultra high on graphics. And so I wanted to set that down straight away because I was like, I'm going to definitely die in this race. Then I realised it hadn't gone down to ultra and it was still lagging. So I had to quickly leave the session during qualifying, come back. And I was just spectating the formation lap, but I was just still going through my settings. And then I came back to it on the race. I was like, okay, cool, I'll just take over it, make sure it's all cool on the start, and then I'll go back to making sure my PC's okay. And my car just didn't move. And I was like, what's going on? And then I was just pressing the throttle just to like joke about, and then it was actually doing stuff. And I was like, hang on a minute, I'm actually controlling the car. And then as soon as I shifted up, I went into broadcast view, and I had no idea where I was turning. I took 130R while staring at the nose of my car, which was incredible, to be fair. One of the best clips I've ever seen on this F1 game. But that's kind of where my playoffs started and where it ended at the same time.
So for you now, it's a jump now to F2, which will be a different challenge in terms of the machinery that's there. You didn't actually get a chance today to experience that F2 machinery and what sort of pace you're able to manifest out of it. So a completely fresh slate for you then when it comes to next season.
Well, I did F2 when it started. I came second in that one with Rob winning it. I was going to F2 anyway. I wanted to basically get an F1 seat today to then say at the start of season 7 to be like, okay, cool, I'm going to F2, I'm giving my seat up. It's a lot nicer, isn't it, when you do it that way than you actually get relegated and then people are like, yeah, sure, gave your seat up, of course you did. But I enjoy the F2. I've said before that I feel like F1 is, the way it's going. I think, for those who are at the front, they do an incredible job and they are so quick at the game. And they put in a lot of effort to be there. I'm looking forward to just doing what I like best, which is just jumping on the game, no preparation, and just having fun. And F2 is all about that. The amount of chaos I witnessed in the first season I did that of F2, I'm looking forward to getting involved in that once again. It's going to be good fun.
I think it's going to be a fantastic showcase in terms of what F2 has been. It's this brilliant development ground for drivers. It's a great place to have that fun. In terms now of your sites, it's not necessarily a case maybe of you looking to jump back up, but for you, is this going to be a case now of maybe an opportunity to relax now when it comes to the Creator Series? Just a chance to let the hair down and go, you know what? This is going to be, for me, a chance to really enjoy the early stages of a brand new game.
Yeah, totally. It's 100% that. As I say, I can go on without having to do preparation during the week and do lots of laps on time trial, and then also have to drive very strategically where you can't fight with the car in front because you lose the DRS train. Whereas F2 is a completely different element. It's crazy no matter what. Like, you can have battles side by side for a whole lap, and then something will happen up at the front that will allow two drivers to come together, and all of a sudden you're back close to them. So it doesn't really make a difference in F2 when you're sort of battling. So that's what I'm looking forward to, that fun element once again of just enjoying it, relaxing, and hopefully still being nearer the front. Hopefully I haven't lost it too much. Last time I did F2, I didn't really practice that much for it as well. So hopefully that can kind of stick and be at the front, pick up a race win here or there maybe. But most importantly, just have fun with it and make good content.
And we look forward to it. We look forward to the classic Hayden Gullis assassin sends that we saw quite a lot in your F2 campaign. And I think all of your fellow drivers will be delighted to see you returning to F2. But thank you very much for talking to us. Of course, we wish you the best of luck on your return to F2. And maybe, who knows, going one step better than we saw last time out and picking up that F2 championship.
Thank you very much, everyone. Good stuff this season from all of you on the comms box.
I think Hayden may have been saying something at the end, but I mean, on my side, didn't catch it at all. Before we round things off, should we just bring the standings back on screen so we can have a final quick rundown of what went on? I think that was Gareth bringing himself onto the screen there, which we'll come to in a moment. There are your four that are going up. It is F1 Scott on 37 points, Curbs on 36, Gwat's 34, and Purger with 34. F1 Alex just didn't quite have enough. Came runner-up in F2 during the main season, but unfortunately 5 points short. Dark Viper put on quite the show at the end, and think about it, it'll be horrible to say this, and I think he'll probably reflect on this. Without that blunder at Miami, 6 points the gap, he would most certainly be going up without that pit stop blunder. Dave Gaming finished strongly with a win in Imola, but only 7th with 21 points, and Ches, unfortunate, just couldn't get going. Started off nicely, but faded away, and then had a disaster at Imola, unfortunately enough. But we look forward to seeing Ches in F2 next season, because he will be a great addition to that series and should definitely be challenging for the championship, I would say.
Yeah, I'd say so as well. I think Dark Viper had a glorious opportunity here today, and his strategy to go uber safe ended up not paying off, and that is the difference maker. He dropped 9 points worth of places when he went from where he did to where he finished, and that would have comfortably got him through, and it would have been a case of looking back on Countback, and I believe
Are you there, Jake?
Yeah, we can see Jake speak.
in all things,
but-
potentially, because
No, we lost you for a little bit, Jake.
We're
Come
not
back
quite
in.
good enough
Come
at
back
lip reading. Can you just
Okay.
go back through that again?
right, it could have gone if it wasn't for the fact that Dark Viper had that issue. He would have been comfortably in, and then between Peya and Gwot, it would have been down to the fact that there was a fastest lap for Gwot, which would have meant Peya on positioning of, I believe, most 6th places would have been through. That would have been the difference maker, I believe, through all of that. Most 6th places would have been the difference maker between Peya and Gwot. But absolutely fantastic playoff season. And I couldn't be happier because I'm 100% on my predictions.
Yes, we were going to talk about it from the very start. You called it. Everyone's got Curbs, Gwotts, and Peya. 100% accurate. You are, the Messiah. I think we need to send you off to do some predictions for all of us. Get your lotto numbers in, I think is the best way to sum it up. We've got Gareth back on screen, on the screen, sorry. From Clipbook Corner, what were you seeing, Gareth? Is there anything else you want to add to what's been, I have to say, a fantastic playoff series for the 2nd season in a row, of course?
Yeah, 2nd series of playoffs. Will it return? That's still to be decided, of course, going into the F1 24 cycle. It was fantastic, actually. I think the standard of racing really was quite good across the board. I think last time with Hayden Gullis and Unstop Rob and Punja, we had so many instances, and I think people came out of it feeling a bit poor. And I'm sure certain drivers probably feel a bit sore that they may be, not going into the F1 or falling down into the F2. Like the likes of Chesnoid Gaming, he was so brilliant in the playoffs last time. Coming into it, in my mind, I thought he'd be a sure bet to stay up. He would be certainly one of my picks to stay up. So. I completely lost what my point is, but I think the standard of racing has been much better, which is really nice to see, and some great battles, and just really, really tight throughout. That Imola Grand Prix, it could have gone every which way. I think the only person who'd really just done a job for the first 4 races was Scott, and he needed to do that job because, of course, he really suffered at Imola.
Absolutely. Before we finish off, should we all pick a moment of the playoffs? Because I think there were quite a few to choose from. I'll kick us off. I think it has to be the puncture from Curbs. I think F1 Alex may have picked up a puncture as well. That really threw a spanner in the works. Curbs would have been comfortably safe if he had picked up those couple of places that he lost with the puncture. And that just made the Imola finale all the more unpredictable. So that's what I would say is our moment of the playoffs.
I will disagree with you. I think the moment of the playoffs is from a perfectly safe position. Peya finding the barriers with a couple of laps to go in Qatar. I think that he would have been by far and away safe as a daisy going into that. Instead, he had to...
Oh no.
What is going on? We could see him speak, but Discord does not like his microphone, does it? No, he'll come back soon. We're going to predict it. 5, 4... Jake, are you back?
Fine.
Wet, and if circumstances are different... Yeah, it has. I don't have a solution to it.
It said all the words in like 2 seconds then. That was, if you slow it down, you can actually hear it all in perfect time. Jake,
you should be on the horse racing speaking that quickly.
Jake, finish off your favourite moment.
Favourite moment, Peja putting it in the barriers and making his life a lot more difficult than it needed to be.
Yeah, my favourite moment was Hayden Gullis dropping 5 donuts and driving in spectator mode a car. I think maybe next season, if we can get EA and Codemasters to put that in as a permanent game mode, we could do a whole race with that kind of third-person mode style of racing. I think it would make some great content for one lap at least before they all crashed out. But yeah, end of the season. Really excited for this, for the next season. Obviously, we are back in 2 weeks' time for Season 7. I cannot believe it's 7 seasons of the Creator Series already. And we'll be back for the start of the new game. And I'm going to quickly just sign myself off. I have been Gareth Allen TV. Find me on all the social media gubbins of that. But I can bet a bottom dollar, but not a single one of you will follow me, because that's how this works.
Go follow Gareth, everybody. Jake, where can everybody find you on the old socials?
You can find me at Twitter, which is at Jake_Sperry. And that's pretty much that, really. I've got an Instagram that I never really use. But yeah, mainly I'm Twitter-X. So if you want to jump over, see what I'm up to, then you're more than welcome to.
I think everybody should get involved in that as well. And if you want to see what I'm doing, not a lot is usually the answer. On Twitter, X is TW06, and on Instagram, which I equally don't use, but maybe if we can get some behind the scenes stuff going on Instagram. But yeah, Tom Wilco 66 is where you'll find me on there. But I think that has rounded us off for the playoffs. It's been an absolute pleasure. You can see it on my face. I'm sweating. I've managed to develop curtains over the last 3 hours. It's been an incredible transformation. But yeah, pleasure to be a part of. I think Jake and Gareth will say absolutely the same thing there. Thank you everybody for watching. It's been a pleasure. And yeah, we look forward to F122 and F122. God, let's not go back to that game. F124. We will see you in a couple of weeks for the return of the Creator Series. Thank you everybody for watching. And yeah, we will see you then.